Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the City of Henderson Special Call Board Meeting Tuesday, May 17th, 2022. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Here.
Commissioner Vowell?
Here.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Here.
Commissioner Staton?
Here.
Mayor Austin?
Here. Just for the folks that are joining us out here today, we're going to have a very short executive session where we're just going to go over and do a stand-up executive session, and then we'll be right back to start our regular meeting. So is there a motion to go into executive session?
I move to go into executive session pursuant to KRS 61.810 subsection G, and that discussion between the city and a representative of a business entity and discussion of a specific proposal, and that open discussions would jeopardize the retention, expansion, and/or upgrading of a business.
There's a second, motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Vowell?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
Aye. And we will be right back, very short. Harper.
It's ready.
All right.
All right, is there a motion to come out of executive session?
I move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Is there?
Motion to adjourn.
The executive session? Is a motion and a second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, that is done. All right, now, we will open the work session for the city of Henderson, Tuesday, May 17th, 2022. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas,
Here.
Commissioner Bowles,
Here.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Here.
Commissioner Staton,
Here.
Mayor Roberts.
Here. And we have one thing on our on our agenda, and that is a review and discussion of fiscal 2023 budget for the city of Henderson. Robert and Buzzy, turn it over to you.
Thank you all for being in attendance today. Robert, I want to thank he and his staff and all the help of all the department heads who have worked very hard to come together with a budget. Probably this is one of the most difficult budget times we've had due to the unknown in the economy. The other item we're facing is, we've made you all aware of, is the employment issues that we face in hiring people in all departments. Connie, I think what currently we have on the board, 15 vacant positions, so our staff continue to work hard to attain filling positions, but it just seems like it's a revolving door. So that's played an important part of this budget. As y'all know, fuel costs are continue to rise, and Robert does a good job trying to predict what fuel will be this upcoming year, and in certain departments, it's critical. So with that all being said, we will talk about capital projects during the course of the meeting today, as well as capital needs and where we stand with that. Robert, I think at this time I will turn it over to you to begin your conversation. In addition to that, what we may do, to all the department heads who are here, when we have a section of department heads, we'll ask that they stay in the room. The rest of you can step out in the hall, and we'll call you in when your time's ready. Robert.
Okay. Well, as each department will talk about their expenses, I thought we would start with just a quick analysis of the revenue. And most of this will focus on the general fund. So, if people can see that this chart, I tried to make it as big as possible so that you can see it. So it's kind of distorted. But I kind of want to focus on the two middle columns there, the 2022 projection and the 2023 budget. So, I do that, you'll see that the difference between two is actually a decrease, $832,000. And the big reason for that is the federal grants. As you see, we appropriated what the city received as far as ARPA. We were required to, part of that acceptance of those funds was to include it in our budget. So, you'll see that's a $279,000 increase in taxes, and we'll kind of just drill down into those in the next screen. But, everything's pretty much, it's on line with the prior year. There's the local reimbursement toward the bottom there is a $188,000 increase. And all of that's related to what we charge the various utilities for meter reading, for billing, for collection. So that's not a big unknown. And then the payment of the tax, that's up by $300,000 because of what Henderson water utilities now paying to the city. On the next screen, I kind of drill down into the taxes. That's a huge majority of what the current property taxes, that is based on a reduction in the rate. We will go from a 49 cents per 100 to 47 cents. But even with doing that, it's almost on par with what we are projecting for 2022 actual. So even though the rate's going down because of new property reassessments, we will probably see the same amount of revenue for current property taxes. The vehicle property tax, that's up per budget, but it's down slightly to the 2022 projection, because I don't know if you have heard that because of the vehicles being, used vehicles, new vehicles are so high, they've changed the way that the PBA will assess those, and they're actually looking at refunding what's been overpaid. So I dropped that down a little bit on the projection, because that's kind of an unknown. I didn't know how that will all play out. And the next few items are kind of beyond our control. Property tax discounts based on what taxpayer will they actually pay. Committed tangible tax, that's based on audits, where they go out and audit these companies based on what they have submitted as far as their tangible tax. Sometimes we get some, sometimes we don't. So, of course, the delinquent property tax, penalty and interest, that's all related to how aggressive Dawn is sending out her letters. So, as you can see, that's been a nice increase. So the franchise tax, that will go down because that's based on our tangible rate. And since that's been decreased, that will come down from this year's actual. Bank deposits, that's based on what the banks are holding here in Henderson. And you can see when those ARPA funds showed up, everyone has extra cash, and the banks are paying a tax to us based on that balance. The insurance premium tax, that's also a tax on the policies, and that's usually passed on to ratepayers. The premium, the policy owners. Net profits, that's a pretty sizable increase. It's a 47% increase over the 2022 budget, but it's not an increase over what we're seeing in 2022 actual. We're right at $1,557,000. Then what's now the largest component of our tax is the payroll tax. We're up 13.3% on budget, but again, not knowing how this economy is going to pan out. Are we on the verge of a recession? Will people start cutting back on expansions? Not knowing, I'd much rather be conservative on our revenues and budget our expenses at the maximum. And hopefully, that kind of pans out that we end up even. Oh, that bottom number there, that 1% rebate program, that's for the companies that participate in a program with the state. That particular one is for gifts, where they participated in a program where they expanded their plant, they hired employees based on that expansion, and the company collects that tax, remit it to us, we turn around and rebate it back to them. So that's only based on the employees part of that program. So this is kind of a chart to show how those are trending. On the property tax, as you guys know, back in 2018, the rate was reduced. Now it was
About 20%, roughly.
I can't remember where it was.
It was 61.
Yeah, 61.
Yep, down to
Went down to
49.
So, as you can see, by doing that, it's been level since that decrease. Far right shows that it's pretty much even with what we're projecting this year, with even with a reduction of the rate. This is what the board ended up doing. They ended up increasing, they reduced the property tax, but increased the occupational tax. See, that's been more responsive to the growing economy. Property tax tends to lag because it takes a while for the reassessments to hit and the properties to be added, but on occupational tax, that's pretty much immediate. And then the insurance premium tax, you'll notice 2020, fiscal 2021, that's when the board voted to increase that tax from 11%, I mean, from 10% to 11%. And we set that increase aside to pay the bonds on the 2020 bonds, the principal and interest on the 2020 bonds. We also use that, we use that to pay for the fire truck and street sweeper. Anything that kind of goes over $250,000, we use these. So we actually keep a spreadsheet as part of the audit report that we have set that money aside for those particular purposes. It can be anything that the board approves. This pie chart shows the four legs of the tax, of our revenue, which shows property tax, the insurance premium tax, payment from utilities, and the payroll net profits. That's based on the budget. I wanted to show you what it looked like back in 2005 when we only had the three, where it showed the property tax and insurance tax, and we relied on the payments from utilities. That's changed now with the implementation of payroll and occupational taxes. We don't rely on them as much as we used to. That's pretty much it, unless you guys have any questions or.
I had to check, but I've seen where PBA sent out a bunch of reevaluations of property. Did they raise it? Because my wife told me she was looking at that. I'll look at them later, but do you know if they went up? So, okay, did you factor in those numbers already? Okay.
Well, not the full. I always kind of want to be conservative on those, because Andrew will give us, I showed it in the budget, it's an $80 million increase. That's on new property and assessments. Okay. So that's what's enabled us to reduce the rate, because now we're spreading it over more property.
Am I right in saying that every time a house sells, then their tax base resets to the sell amount, is that right?
I believe that's right.
So like if you have a house that's taxed on 140 and you sell it for 250, now it's taxed on 250, right?
But of course, we have to be careful, because they're always.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's not what the assessment happens with
Yeah.
house price, but.
Somewhere thereabouts.
Yeah.
And I think in addition to that, the PBA has quadrants in the city. And they'll take one quadrant each year and reassess their property value each year over a 4-year cycle.
Any
All right.
questions for Robert on revenues?
Hey, yeah, right, we're ahead of schedule.
We're rolling.
Robert, are you finished?
Yes, sir.
If I could I ask, Dawn to stay, Marie, Steve Davis, Connie, Crystal, if you don't care, and the rest of you, if you'll step out a few moments, and we'll call you in when your time is up. Starting out, we're talking about administrative. City Commissioners report on expenses. Typically, Marie does those. Marie, do you have any questions or comments on anything you've done for the City Commission?
Yeah, this starts on page C-7.
I know I did it, but I didn't know that I would have to present it to you all. Alright. So, The association dues and subscriptions, looks like it's a little bit smaller this time.
We're
I
missing one,
reduced it,
we're missing one item, is bridge lane,
right.
because you do want to fund that, correct?
Oh, so we need to add that back in. That was $10,000, right?
Okay.
So all the rest of it is just based off of, the special services includes retirement watches, things like that. And those seem to be more expensive and more retirement recently, so.
Yeah, if I could jump in, the salaries, the very first item does include the Department of Local Government number of 7.1% increase. So the board hasn't taken an increase in several years, but that budgeted number does include that.
That's all I have, Buzzy, just that,
No.
since you had the bridge link
Yep.
back into it.
Any
The
questions
next
under,
page over there tells you how I broke it all out, where it all goes.
any questions for city commission? Going next to the city manager's office, really, to be honest with you, Maria and I talked about that, but there's nothing out of the ordinary, with our budget, just adjustments accordingly.
Did you account for the additional staff in this section?
Yes.
That's what that is, right?
It is. Robert, do you have anything you want to add?
That position is board requested, January 1.
Right. Marie, do you have any other comment?
No, just, it was just a standard up everything just a little bit due to increases in telephone costs and on their cartridges and,
Anything, if you can get it.
yes, exactly.
Dawn, you're next.
There's not much difference between last year and this year in this budget. There's nothing. We raised professional services by $5,000 just to, anticipate, well, we're getting increases in our benefits, attorneys rates.
Well, I think it's honest to say this past year you had a lot of professional service expenses due to Pratt.
Yep.
And probably in this upcoming year, we will have, additional professional expenses due to all the projects we're working on and, providing assistance in different areas.
I think that 1.9% total increase is exceptional in this day and time.
Okay, next, Marie, back to you.
Back to me. Look, I do a lot of these, huh? So, again, it's just standard increases in the, legal advertising back up just a little bit. I under budgeted last year again. It goes up and down, since I never know how much that's going to be. But that's the major change, other than whatever Robert does to the personnel services up there.
The personnel includes a 3% COLA, possible 2% merit. Fire and police may actually have step grade changes based on the longevity and not always every year, it can be 2 years. Again, the health assurance is just based on our best guess. We're using Benji's help coming up with that guesstimate. We're looking at a 5% increase.
Anything else, Marie?
No, nothing else.
Any questions for Marie? Connie, if you don't mind, would you step outside and ask Sam to come in? As y'all are aware, Dylan Ward has been out of pocket now for about a month and a half. And
He was on Zoom.
Yeah, I'm here, Buzzy.
okay.
Do you hear me?
So, Dylan, we
Yes,
have,
Dylan.
first of all, how are things?
They're going as well as they can be. We're actually sitting in the sickie right now, but little man seems to be doing well. So thanks for asking.
So glad to hear it. And if you need anything, let us know. What we'll do, Dylan, we'll let Sam go through the safety, and then between you and Crystal, you can talk about heart and engineering. Okay? So Sam,
Yep.
you want to take the lead on safety?
Okay, attached, you see the spreadsheet that we have. We do have a little bit of increase in some of the things that we provide, and that's just cost of doing business. The biggest expense that we're looking at, increase, is the OSHA required, physicals for, fire department and the police department divers. We got a new list of new costs, so that increase went up $4,000 over what we anticipated early in the budget process, so it's up to $37,600. Everything else is still in line with what we spent last year. Some of the things that we didn't get done last year because of COVID restraints, we put into the budget this year. Some of the OSHA training and OSHA cards, and we're doing CPR training coming up in June and in July, so we're doing some CPR training. I guess the other biggest cost increase we had was fuel. There's not a whole lot we could do about that. I don't know if you have any type of questions, any specific questions on anything that we're doing.
What's that special services down there, 44?
Oh, yeah, sorry, that's where we, for the employee incentive program.
But let me talk about that if you don't care.
No, but we put $10,000 in for that, so.
Well, let's briefly, since you're the author of the document, but I will want to acknowledge Commissioner Pruitt's interest in doing some sort of an employee recognition program for our employees. So I sat down with Sam, we've discussed it, and we have a draft copy that we'll share with you via email. But do you want to describe briefly, Sam, what you have in mind?
Well, we were looking at modifying our safety program and our safety committee and instituting an employee recognition, initially it was geared more towards safety. But after talking to the city manager, we kind of incorporated that into a lot of other things. We ran a supervisor class for all of our, some of our supervisors who have not had training through the college. And one of the things they talked about in the class that they wished that we would do more of was employee recognition. Time of service, you know, being in a job for, X number of years, and those type of things. So the city manager and I sat down and had a conversation, so I wrote a basic policy where it's an employee recognition to recognize people who have been here for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, and so on. To recognize people for safety and doing safety well, because our workers' comp costs, we were saving about $36,000 or something, somewhere around in there, because our employees are working safely. So we're getting more insurance for less cost. So in the program, the employee recognition program, I instituted or put in an employee of the month policy, kind of lay out some details of how it's going to happen. I created a form, so if I had somebody I want to recognize because of good work they did, either in the public or with their internal customers, I could send the form in. And currently, we have a safety review board that meet, and we look at all accidents and injuries that we have in the city, our accidents, try to see if we can find the cause so we can fix them so we don't keep having the same problem. So we were going to add a responsibility to that committee of selecting the employees of the month. then that person would be recognized, here by the commission. Then, out of those 12 winners, we would pick an employee of the year, which would be recognized. And then there would be a little incentives, whether it could be a jacket, chamber gift certificate, or those type of things, would be given to that person.
And one of the reasons why I got with city manager is that finally, I guess my wife's got me working out again. So I've been going to John Kennedy Center 2 or 3 days a week. But I don't know, Bugsy, do you remember when we bought that floor, the John Kennedy Center floor? I think we paid like $100,000, $90,000 or something.
It's been 5 years ago.
And they gave us a big time warranty on it, so many years. And I was kind of skeptical. I was thinking, this floor is not going to last that long. It's going to be coming up. It's going to be doing this. Well, they got a worker up there named Paul. This guy, every time I go in the place, he's working. He's clean. If you ever get a chance, just go up there. You're going to see him. He cleans the floor with the machine, and it looks like we just bought it yesterday. And he takes care of that center ground. And being in the John Kennedy Center, it's a little bit more challenging because some of our young kids are not mature enough to understand how to take care of things. And they throw paper, and it's just a mess sometimes. And he keeps that center immaculate. And I was thinking, I was in there working out, and here he goes by that machine. I was thinking, if anybody in the city ought to be recognized for Employee of the Month or whatever, he ought to be in the group. Because that guy, and he's been up there, I don't know, maybe 15 years, maybe? Has he been there that long, you think? Connie?
He's been there a long time.
Yes, and the center is his. He takes care of the place. And I was just looking, I said, wow, that guy will be recognized. So I got in touch with city manager, and wanted to know, I think that'd be a great program for us to recognize monthly, like you said, and come up with people that go the extra mile. They're not worried about the salary. I love my job, and be recognized. So, but if you ever get a chance, just pop in, watch it.
You can eat off the floor.
That's right. Listen, look, when they told us we was gonna pay, I don't know, almost $100,000, and it's gonna last 30 years, I was thinking this thing will be coming up in 5 years, and it's just like we bought it yesterday.
What's Paul's last name, Connie?
Parker.
Paul.
One thing, I was there to vote today, and again, you can eat off the floor, but the grounds are clean. I'd like to, Trey sitting in here, but Bruce Thomas, who runs the center, does an excellent job, and he takes it very personal about the condition. And as y'all are aware, we've spent quite a bit of money there to get it back up in shape. But Robert is right. If you go in there, it's just immaculate.
Well, I think we're on the right track with this. You know, I used to work at Gibbs a long time ago, and you could tell whenever I was the president was Nick Gibbs, and you can tell when he was his health was fading and other people took over, because some of the things that they used to do for us, like give us sacks of onions once a year, and a big Christmas basket full of fruit and a $300 check, and just all the, like 6 times a year they would do employee giveaways, and I didn't realize how much I appreciated them doing that until they didn't do it anymore. And sometimes it's those little things, in addition to the salary stuff that I'm sure we're going to talk about in a little bit. Those are the big things, but these little things mean a lot to a lot of people. I'm glad to see us heading in that direction.
Everybody who is nominated would be recognized one way or another, but there would be, one super recognition for that particular one. So,
Maybe we can even have a banquet for all 12 of them, and then announce the winner at the banquet. That might be kind of neat,
Because, there's a lot of ideas that were floated about in the supervisor class, and, so as we had that class and we had all that, then we had a meeting with the city manager and the HMU general manager to discuss what their employees were thinking that would enhance their job and make them feel better about their job, as well as be, help when people come into the city. We look at the things that we do for our employees as outside of the pay and benefit, the pay and true benefit that we have, to make people want to come work for us. Because we're like everybody else. We need good people.
Yeah, we want to take care of our good people.
You want to keep them.
And those little things do count.
Any questions for Sam? As usual, thank you for all your work.
Yes, sir.
Next, we're gonna bring in a newbie. Steve, do you mind to come up and, maybe talk a little bit about community development, code enforcement? And while Dylan's on the line, we can talk about art, and we'll wanna introduce Crystal too when we get to that point. So Steve, we'll turn it to you first for community development and codes.
Hey, pleasure to be with you guys today. On the community development budget, we'll start there since you mentioned it first. One thing that we need, Tammy was very clear with, is that a good portion of this is best guesswork, okay? Because HUD hasn't awarded exactly what is going to be given, so we're basing it off of what has been given in the past years. And that's the rehabilitation of CDBG. That is the best guess, okay? It may not be these actual numbers is what I'm trying to get across. It could be more. She's hoping more, of course. We all are. But at any rate,
Maybe interrupt, Steve.
Sure.
What he's referring to is on page C-51. That's the community development block grant.
sorry about that. Thank you.
We have a division that, under the general fund, that pays Tammy's salary, and then federal grant is on C-51, which is administered by Tammy, which is our best guess at today.
So from there, other things that are mentioned, like public services, these are hired to actually help with some of the volunteers that come, and in shelter as well. COVID assistance, that's what it was, the rental assistance, and assisting in maybe generator purchases and things like that to help with the COVID outbreak.
Steve?
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing I'd like to add, under the HUD, grant money, is we have $110,000 in the budget. And as we described a little bit earlier in a previous meeting, we're going to extend sidewalks from the New Jefferson School along Alvis, across Sand Lane, and eventually tie into the New Creek subdivision. That way, it will help get kids into South Junior High and into Jefferson safely, because now they do not have sidewalks. So, in our next meeting, we will come forward with an engineering contract to design anything within the state right-of-way. Just wanted to share that, Steve, as part of that budget. And do you have any new homes you're building this year, or?
Yeah,
or
she's
proposing?
working on one right now. It's actually going up. And then there's another one that's in the works. But given the amount we've got, I think that's maybe potential for two more, but we may have to wait until we get more funding. So that's what's going on.
Any questions on community development? Would you mind going on into your other primary role as
Absolutely.
codes administrator? And
Sure.
That's on page C-28.
I just want to take this time to acknowledge the short period of time you've been in your new position and with the city. You've done a magnificent job. I know you've got support staff that are really helping you, but I talked to him yesterday and said, is this going to get the best of you? And he said, well, there was a week I had in question, did I do the right thing? But it seems like you're rolling with the punches, Dawn, Kelsey, and Teresa have been great help to them. And so we appreciate your bringing to the table your new approach to dealing with code issues as well as building permits and working with contractors. So thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Again, this is a lot of good people here. I appreciate the good people as well. This budget is similar to last year's in all aspects except for probably contractual services. That's probably the biggest increase I think that we have. And part of that is because the price of everything has really gone up. I think OSB has gone up from, affordable to very exorbitant. Like, was it $40 a sheet of OSB or more than that? Used to get it for $7 a sheet. So it's painfully high. And then we also contract with mowers. If you've driven through the city, and there's a lot of yards that are kept really nice and immaculate, but then there's a few that we have to take care of. That's the bottom line. So gas is up. That cost we're absorbing that cost as well. With that, when we demo, the cost of demo has really gone up because of asbestos abatement. It's really like almost tripled in price. So that's really cut into that budget as well, portion of the budget. That's why we see significant increase there, and just trying to make sure that we can actually continue to do what we've been doing in the past, given the increase in cost of material.
Where do you stand on number of homes to be demolished in the upcoming year?
Well, we've always shot for, from what I understand, around 10-ish. We're hoping to do that much, but if things continue to increase, it's really, again, it runs into things like asbestos. If we test for asbestos in each home we demolish, the state sort of requires us to do that sort of thing as a city, but we're looking at the cost for testing has gone up, and like I said, the cost for removal has really gone up. And we've tried to farm it out to people all across the state, and able to get a decent price anywhere.
And the landfill costs, not only for asbestos, but also our landfill costs when we demolish houses now, rather than when we had the landfill. Those prices have gone up.
So there's a lot of costs there that we're absorbing. So everything else is pretty close. If you have any questions about anything, I'd love to answer them if I can. Again, I've only been here for close to 8 months or so.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Everybody knows Steve was an excellent property inspector in that prior job. And did a very, very thorough job and all that. Speak very highly of him.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Steve.
Do I need to leave?
You can.
Okay.
You're not asking for anything more, so you're in good shape.
All right,
Have a good night.
Nice meeting you.
Take a cookie with you.
Oh, yeah, good sandwich.
It's something.
So,
Take a cookie.
Connie, if you don't mind, we'll let you come up next and talk a little bit about HR, and then we'll get to Dylan last.
Okay. Hello. As you can tell, I'm on, HR's on C-25. And as you can see, overall, we're actually requesting a slight decrease, 1.8% overall. But it's also, remember, our department, like, the legal, we're small. We have, the most significant increases is in our, associational dues and also in some training. And it's not much money, but it's a lot of increase. We have a new HR person who was promoted from within the organization, and I'm working really hard, and she's open to getting certified in our profession, which will make her more encouraged to do advancement as she moves along, so succession planning. And then the same holds true with our travel. It shows a large amount percentage-wise, but it's a small amount dollar-wise, and that includes the certification process for that person. Really, that's as far as our department. Those are the key cost dollars, I believe. I also want to mention, as we're all talking about with recruitment and retention, which is critical, one of the things which we're hoping won't be costly is to expand our recruitment process to try to really get more, reach out more with online. For example, it's not been successful yet, is that, for example, with our current firefighting recruitment process, in addition to our traditional face-to-face orientations or meet and greets at the various locations, IT has worked with us, and we've set up virtual meetings, so if people don't want to come there or wherever, that they can log on and participate in those orientations about our opportunities virtually. We haven't had success yet. Nobody's signed up, but it's just beginning. And then I think some of you know the Economic Development Group is having their job fair later next month. I forget the exact date that we registered to do. And I was glad to see that they're going to be doing marketing to do virtual simultaneously with in person at the library. So we're excited about, we're going to participate in that as well. And we'll either coordinate with our IT group or HWIT group to get that set up. So we're trying to be effective with our monies, but also trying to think of every opportunity to reach out to the people that want to work.
Great.
Okay, and I don't really, do you want me to mention anything about the health plan?
I think between you and Robert, I think we need to bring up where we are, not only that and the clinic.
Yes.
And we'll briefly talk about the merit and COLA while we're at it.
Okay, do you want, okay. On the clinic, which is also in concert with the health plan, I'm gonna let Robert talk about the numbers on that, if you don't mind. One thing that our broker, Benji, has, is coordinating, which it hasn't been finalized, but we hope to help incorporate into the process, is to an enhanced medical or medicine training management program type of situation where they will coordinate with UMR, our third-party administrator, and the clinic to really zero in on certain, I don't want to get too particular, zero on certain very common diseases that's within our organization, which is also in the region, diabetes, high blood pressure, that type of thing, and really focus in incentivizing those people to identify them, which they have that information, and incentivize them to interact with our clinic, and if they follow certain criteria, I'm going to go ahead and say it, is that if it can work out, that would be all of their medications, even though some are free through the clinic, that if it can work out an agreement, that those things would be at no cost, even if they have to go through the health plan as an incentive, and if they stay doing what the provider is encouraging them, because the whole focus is to get these people healthier, or at least to maintain, because that will ultimately help them, most importantly, also maybe financially assist the health plan. So that's an aggressive program that they're working on. Benji's heading that up. I'm really encouraged. It's been a few weeks since he's given us an update on the interactions that he's having, but that's an exciting piece that we're hoping will work. And then also in concert with the clinic to get out since, don't want to jinx with COVID, but able to start getting out and going to throughout the city and kind of raise awareness, maybe do free blood checks or, blood pressure checks, other kind of things to encourage people to go to the clinic. The health plan, do you want to?
Yeah.
It's on page C43. This is the fund that we run it through.
on the health plan, as you recall, it was, I was very encouraged when we converted to the health plan options. And those will remain as is. And Buzzy's recommending to you all to retain the employee premiums at the same rate, which is a huge deal. And, I'm for C-43, but that's all right, I can do it from memory. And especially in concert with our COLA that maybe you'll approve and the recommendation for the merit increase, and significantly with the economy and the inflation, is that if we can keep our premiums as they are, you know, it will make, I think, a difference to the people's pocketbooks, but also to morale, that we can show you said we're doing what we can to help your pocketbooks for still retain high quality health care. As you know, we've rolled out, sunset the waiver HMA for spouses. You know, we used to do the spouse, if they had other coverage and they didn't get on our plan, the city would pay them so much money, the employee, to keep them off the plan. That's sunset. And then the HRA, the $500 that was given to each plan participant, that is sunsetting at the end of this calendar year. To my knowledge, I think that's the only change to our health plan. As far as the cost for the city.
Robert, do you want to add anything as to where we stand today,
It's
actual versus budget?
on the C-43, you'll notice that we'll come in well under budget. That's in the middle column, the 2022 projection. We'll come in well under budget on the expense side, but what's happening, because we fund this through field positions, it's part of the payroll process, that every position, we have each fund pay a certain amount, and it goes into this fund. Well, because of the vacancies, we're not getting as much revenue as we need to fund it. So we're total will be under budget, but we'll have to increase the allocation to get those needed funds. So it looks kind of weird, especially when you look at 2023 proposed budget, the far column. I show revenue 9.1 million and expenses of 8.6. I'm kind of overshooting so that I have funds to pay the bills. In the past, I want to say 13 weeks, they've all been under what we had last year.
Yes.
For that time period. Where before it was some scary numbers. I always make fun of Regina when she brings in that bill on Friday. It better be a small one.
Yeah.
There for a while I was really worried, but it's kind of leveled off, and I'm pleased to see that. You know, with COVID, I just expected these big, humongous bills. I haven't seen it.
Right. With you mentioning that, I just returned from the Kentucky Human Resource Professionals Organization Conference, and one of the presenters talked about the health plans across, and they also mentioned everyone was anticipating a huge increase with COVID, but what, as we all recognize, is with that process, everything else was being artificially held down. People weren't doing other procedures or weren't allowed to do other procedures, and actually their speculation is that now that things have calmed down from that perspective, is that they very well think that lots of people will still go in and now get all these procedures that they were holding off on. So who's to say?
Any questions about healthcare or HR? Thank you, Connie.
You're welcome.
Dylan, we saved you for last. We have Crystal in here, so if you can briefly talk about the engineering, and Crystal, if you don't mind coming to the podium. I think many of you may not know Crystal Windhouse. Welcome to the Board of Commissioners.
Okay.
again, I think you've been here before, but I wanna make sure they know who you are. But the question is, how long have you been with Hard now?
6 years in October.
Started out as bus driver and have now promoted to superintendent. So, Dylan, do you want her to talk about her side of the budget?
Krista, what do you prefer? You want me to give a quick rundown and then you add anything you want to?
That's fine.
Go ahead,
Really,
Dylan.
I'll just give a quick overview. Our budget overall did increase, but just looking kind of through it, most of them are things that we really don't have control over. Our personnel services total, and you can see at the bottom, it increased by 7%, roughly. And so that includes a whole bunch of things. You can kind of see on there. So that's probably where the bulk of our increase comes from. It looks like there was about an $80,000 increase and this is on page C35. But it looks like there's about an $80,000 increase, which equates to about a 7% in that one category. So that's where the bulk of our increase comes from. The rest of it is all pretty standard. Supplies, maintenance overall actually decreased. Services, we increased slightly, but once again, I think those most of that was due to something that we also can't control. It looks like account 4444, administrative/accounting services, that increased, and that's where the bulk of that was from. Sundry charges also increased a little bit, but once again, I think those are things we don't really have control over. Insurance expenses, planning grant, that one actually stayed the same. And then the only thing that we increased that we really probably have somewhat control over is our capital outlay. And we've included, in last year's budget, we had money included for a new pickup truck. And in this year's budget, we went ahead and put in $90,000 for a new bus. I'll let Crystal talk more about this, but I think technically, based on the FTA's replacement cycle, we're eligible to replace a new bus. The state of the economy and the market and the lead time on vehicles will more than likely make it to where even if we ordered it at the very beginning, we may still not get it. And Crystal can speak more to this, but I don't necessarily know that, compared to the rest of the vehicles in the city fleet, that we have a vehicle that's eating up a lot of maintenance right now. The FTA is a little bit more aggressive on their replacement cycle, but Crystal, I'll let you know more about the bus we're replacing, if you want to speak to that.
We actually have two that, according to the FTA standards, have aged out, but with parts being far behind, some of the meetings I sat through, they are still waiting on buses they ordered in 2019. So just trying to be progressive, we decided to try to purchase one within this new year, instead of trying to go ahead and get two and just see, what comes of that. But that was the reason for the $90,000 in that capital outlay, was just for the purchase of a new bus.
The buses, they're usually 100% paid by federal?
It's not 100%. I think there is, it's 90, and then instead of the 10, it's 5 and 5. Or 5 or 7.5 and 2.5. There's some weird little thing. So we pay like 2.5% or something, right?
Dawn actually handles the FTA reimbursement.
It depends on the grant. You won't receive the grant for this budget until next year. It depends on the availability. It could be 100%, but it also could be 80-20 or, 90-10.
Tell the board what you told me this morning about the additional grant.
Oh, this morning, I got an email that we're getting another $850,000 from ARP funds.
Mm-hmm.
And it is no match. It's 100% for operating. It's not for capital, but it is for operating salary, insurance, that type of, for a fixed route. I mean,
They're just throwing so much money at this. We will not actually match anything in this fiscal year. We have so much money carried over from last year. the city will not have to match that because we got all this ARPA money. I don't see us, even though there's money in this budget, you'll notice on page C-35, there's $537,000 local money that I doubt that we'll use in the next year because of this announcement that they're getting us.
And those funds are good for, are they 3 or 5 years?
I think this is only for 2 years.
2?
Now, we can ask to extend it, and I may extend another grant because we still have some grants that are matching funds that are not used, we haven't used, they're just kind of sitting there. I try to use the grants up as quickly as possible, but right now I'll have 3 or 4 grants open at one time.
What happens to the old buses?
We auction them.
Can we keep it
Well, I
and
mean,
wrap it and use it as a shuttle?
We have to.
We would have to pay for it.
$5,000.
If it goes over 5,000, FDA gets it back.
Right, yeah.
Can we half total it? It's only worth $4,000?
Well, if we get insurance proceeds back, we have to give it back to the FDA.
Who establishes
They're buying it anyway.
the value
Yeah.
of the replacement?
that I do not know. As far as the FDA considers, it's aged out, the one that
Right.
we need to get rid of.
But if we put it on gov deals and it brings $5,500, it all goes back to FTA. Anything under it, we get to keep, right?
If it's 4,999, we keep it. If it goes to 5,001, FTA gets it all. It's not like we get to keep 5,000.
It depends. There's a formula on how much we may have matched. So you have to go back and look at the grant that you bought it with. And there's a formula, you can deduct some advertising, some cleanup. I mean, it's kind of complicated, and I cringe every time we put one out, especially right now with vehicles bringing premium dollars. You don't know what's going to happen.
The other thing I'd like to acknowledge Crystal has done, at the request of our Henderson Economic Development. Crystal is working with them on job postings, in her bus shelters, in her buses, et cetera. So she's been a very strong advocate to work with them to help with employment, transportation issues. So thank you. And then the other thing, she got a new pickup truck this year, and we were fortunate enough to pass that old truck down to Public Works, which saved the city of not having to buy a pickup truck. So thank you.
You're doing a good job with the buses.
Thank you.
They run on time, and I know it's 3 ladies that walk down on Fayette Street and pick it up on Martin Luther King and Fagan, and they do it, and it's on time, so it's a great service.
Do you have anything you want to add?
I do not.
Got personnel problems?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about those? 'Cause, no, I came from a bus right here, so.
Dylan, do you have anything you want to add on Hart?
No, sir. I'm glad you mentioned the thing about the pickup truck. That was one thing I was going to add. And the only other thing I'd say on personnel is we've been understaffed. So, we'll come way under budget this year for what our staffing was, what our budgeted cost was. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dylan, you got engineering last.
332.
Yep.
Steve, 30.
Yeah, so this one, similar to Hart, really the budget overall increased. The vast majority of that is once again related to personnel. You can kind of see that up at the top in the first column. We had a 6% increase just in that category. And then really the only other thing that increased substantially was 4418 contractual services. And that has been kind of a catch-all account for several different things related to our capital projects. I know in the current fiscal year, several Pratt type things for a few $1,000s were charged there. And then specifically the $9,600 we have budgeted now, which is up from the 4,000, is for spraying of city properties, such as like, I believe that includes Borax Drive and then also the sports complex property. So we kind of looked at when those potentially might be developed or and Buzzy gave us a number for what spraying costs so that we would do that instead of mowing basically until they could be developed. So those are really the only what I'll call major increases or changes from the previous year.
Could you provide a quick update on your two major projects being the sports complex and the fire department?
Yeah, so real quick on the fire station, I know Buzzy at the last commission meeting, which I apologize I couldn't tune in for that. You all approved kind of a third party cost estimator to kind of come in and do some, I guess, an estimate based on the current state of the economy and that sort of thing. And so really, I guess, Buzzy, you can interrupt me if I say anything that's or if I say anything out of turn or if you want to add anything. But I would say we've done some really good work with this new architect trying to basically get the square footage down to a bare minimum, and especially for the headquarters station. And we're probably at a point where we probably can't take away any more square footage and still kind of call it a headquarters station. And so they're going to do an estimate. And then when they have that estimate done, Buzzy, I think the plan is to bring that back to the board and just say, here's kind of where we are based on the economy. And, how would the commission like to proceed forward? Is that accurate, Buzzy?
That is correct.
And then on the sports complex, we met with, it's kind of a similar story. We met with our architect and the head civil engineer, who's doing a lot of the design of the actual fields, not QK4, who's doing the larger site, but this is Lockmuller Group, who is a sub-consultant for VPS, our architect. And they kind of put together a preliminary estimate of just what it would take to build the fields. It doesn't include like the concession stands or the buildings or the lightings. There's a bunch of things. His estimate, basically includes just the fields themselves, like the fencing, the actual, dirt and clay and the stuff that would be used to build the fields. And so we reviewed that, and they're getting pretty close to coming up with a final set of plans, I think, that can be put out to bid. And so Buzzy actually met with them about a month ago, and I called in to discuss a little bit and just kind of said, okay, here's kind of where we're looking. This is what we absolutely have to have in the base bid, but here's all the things that we would like to have, but we may not be able to afford right now. So let's bid those as alternates. And so we kind of went through with them on some of those and said, we want to include this in the bid package, but we need to include it as an alternate because we may not have enough money. If we have enough money, we'll pick and choose between which alternates we think we need now. And then if we don't have enough, those are things that we'll just have to wait until later. So that's the most recent I have.
There's a rendering on C50. Anybody wants to see it? Is that pretty much the final layout? Yeah.
I think that one. I don't. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Dylan. I'm sorry. No, it's okay.
I think
It is,
actually
Dylan.
it is, but actually VPS. Maybe that is. That's date. Well, no, that's dated 25/4/21. I do have a more updated one that I need to provide to Robert. Robert, I apologize. It came in last week when things were really crazy, and I never forwarded it to you. But I will forward it to you, and you can substitute it. It's more or less the same. There's a few differences. The general overall concept is still the same, but some of the sizes of the fields, the orientation, some of those things have changed a little bit. But I would say all in all, that's still a pretty good concept.
Is the big red rectangle with the yellow lines in it toward the bottom middle, is that the multipurpose building, indoor buildings?
It is.
Okay.
Which that right now, we awarded that design contract to Tim Skinner. Right now, we're kind of almost treating that as a separate project inside a project. And so we've left space for it. But we've not gotten far enough to get any sort of estimates or really programming on that building yet.
And it looks like we're on schedule to break ground sometime this year, is that right?
We hope to be. Yeah, I mean, I think Buzzy, I mean, that was still their kind of plan when you last talked to him, wasn't it? Maybe have plans ready and bid out sometime in June, possibly.
Yes, yes.
There's $3 million appropriated from the bond proceeds or whatever comes in.
Dylan, anything else you want to add about any of your special projects?
I don't think so at this point, no, sir.
If you don't care, do you mind if I talk about Green River Road sidewalks?
No, go ahead.
Currently, our legal team out of Bowling Green is working on securing the easements for the sidewalks. And if you remember, the sidewalk will pick up there at Osage and it'll head back to Bengate School. And so we're having a few issues with property owners, but right now we don't see anything that we can't get past. And then on Walton Lane, the right-of-way and easements are underway for that project. Again, we've got a few property owners we're having difficulties with, but we'll get through that as well. But it's anticipated with Walton Lane, once the right-of-way acquisition process has been completed, then we will go this year, in the upcoming year, to the utility relocation part of that project. So it will somewhat parallel the work that will be ongoing with I-69.
Are we still, Buzzy, on Waltham Lane, are we still on pace for, hopefully the fall of next year as far as laying pavement down?
Probably so.
Okay.
We will probably let a contract mid-next summer to go to construction.
Okay.
And I'm guessing it's probably a 6-month project, so.
Gotcha.
Anything else, Dylan? He must be gone. Okay, we're sort of running a little bit behind schedule. The last one we need to talk about is the admin other, and it's on page C41. It's our typical outside agency request. I will say that Meals on Wheels program has requested an increase due to food cost and transportation cost. Go down to the list. The committee, the joint committee, has made recommendations on increases. Question for the Boys and Girls Club, a one-time $5,000 increase. And then we had the Preston Arts Center, and I'll be frank with you, I can't remember.
It was for the curtains.
Curtains.
That's $5,000 for the curtains.
Do we need to discuss the Humane Society at this point, or is that for a later time?
I think if you or Austin could give a brief update, but pursuant to our joint meeting we had earlier.
Yeah, I don't mind to. So we had a joint city-county co-op meeting earlier on today at 1:30, and we fund the animal control side of the Humane Society, right? Yeah, and we fund that jointly with the county. What the county has done is they have agreed to give the Humane Society a 3.5% increase over what they gave last year. There have been some issues that I don't know if it's the right time to speak about right now. If we want to speak about it, we can. But there have been some issues with animal control over the last 5 or 6 months. What we have decided to recommend from the city-county co-op is that we agree to fund them through December, and with the express contingency of them correcting some issues that are pretty major, honestly, in the grand scheme of things. And that will give us some time to decide if we want to continue to fund that operation or seek other means to control animals in Henderson, Kentucky. And so that has been what has been decided to be pushed out from the city county co-op group.
They requested a much larger increase than 3.5%. They did, so they were only increasing 3.5% despite a request for
30%.
Well, New Hope Animal Shelter out here on Atkinson, the owner got in touch with me, and I sent Buzzy a copy of the number of dogs they take in, and she was saying that the animal shelter was sending dogs and cats to her, to take them to her. So I think she said she was only approved for 25 dogs for, you know, in space-wise, but now she's asking us, and this may not, like I said, we'll have to deal with it later, but she wants to, be able to expand because she has more room to take in more dogs, and she was asking us maybe too that if she could get some funding, a little funding for what's going on, but the numbers, I sent him a text with the numbers and stuff, and we'll get into it later. But I do know that she takes in a lot of animals out there, and I don't know how it fits in with the Humane Society. But truthfully, I've been kind of curious about what's going on out there. Everything just don't look like it's, the numbers just don't, they just don't, to me, something, you know, makes my hair stand up when she gives us a report, and then other people are calling saying other things, you know.
Well, our city manager asked for a response from them over 6 months ago about a specific issue, and they still have not responded. And so we have requested that they appear at our next city county co-op meeting, and we're going to try to work with them and see what would be the best course going forward. But for right now, our funding agreement goes through December 31st of this year. Dawn's going to write it up and bring it to us at a later meeting. Okay.
And county's going to have the same agreement with us.
Are you finished, Commissioner?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, the other notable things in the outside agencies, we've reduced the contribution to New Works and going into their second year program. We also, one-time allocation to the Chloe Randolph to help create a program to work with our local police department in dealing with their clients as issues arise. Trying to think what else. I think that covers most.
Audit and kids illness new this year.
Yeah, they asked for a one-time $2,500. And then I want to jump down to the quasi-agencies. You can see pretty much planning's gone up minimal. Ambulance service, we have a contract. Really, the only thing there to note is an increase with human relations. We want to acknowledge the great work that board and their executive director is doing within the community. And also part of that cost is to allow the executive director to travel to a national convention. And so we agreed to do that. If you go down to the very bottom under special projects, we are recommending funding Country View drainage for $200,000. As we discussed in the HW board meeting, we will come back probably at the next budget cycle and update you on how much is spent to date, how much is left to do. And as their board discussed last night in conjunction, Mayor Austin was there, as well as Commissioner Staton. We're going to end up spending more money than what we originally said. The question is how much more and how much time can we spread this over? So I just want to sort of share that with you. We did put in money for some East End improvements. Nothing.
I was about to ask, are those earmarked, or is that just stuff that we can pull from throughout the year?
Well, we put money in there just for anything that we may need to do to reignite our efforts that we started many years ago.
That's great. Commissioner Pruitt and I have been talking at length about a couple of things.
Yeah.
So,
And, Tim, I'm glad you said that, and like, one of the things we were talking about was parking, more parking around the JFK. So I kinda like the board to take a look at that, you know, the time, with, see if we can get some more parking area, because I noticed on the other side of the basketball court, there's some lots there that run all the way up to an alley. It's been like that for years, so more parking, especially for when we have ABA games, they both park on both sides. It packs up, so we get some more parking, that'd be a plus.
The other noteworthy is we've increased the visionary plan, a little bit, to take care of what we call small hanging fruit type projects. We also included $26,000 for downtown improvements. And again, it's things that we think we should do to help make our downtown better. Y'all are all aware, the next major project going on is the Imperial Building, and we'll have some expenses related to it. So, we'll keep y'all abreast of that. Only other note, Robert, I will say, is that the rescue squad had made an emergency request to us, via email in this current year. And what has happened, the county rescue provides what they call a cascade air system, in which they fill all of the county air tanks. They also assist us with their system as a backup to the one we have at Station 1. So our funding agreement with the rescue squad is 75-25, and so they're asking for a $10,000 allocation probably in this current year. Yes.
Is that in addition to what they've already received then?
Yes,
Okay.
yep. So I just want to make mention to y'all that we may have that in a budget amendment, coming in July or June.
Is that something to do with the volunteer fire departments?
It does. And, city county rescue, again, we have had situations where they've had to bring us air for our fire projects. Other than that, that's all I have for the non-departmental funding. Do we have any questions that you may have? Not, Robert, you're next,
Well-
and then we will take maybe a break then.
If it's all right with everyone, since I'm gonna be here all night, can we do mine at the end?
Yes.
Or, I know you guys aren't gonna have any questions on
Uh,
mine. Can we move on to those who are waiting?
Yes, fire department.
Yep.
Donna, do you mind to go ahead and get Scott?
I'm gonna run record real quick.
Okay,
might be a good time to take a
great.
5-minute break, Tim?
Yeah,
5-10 minutes? Mayor, is that okay?
sure, yes.
Do we need a motion or anything, or just an answer?
This will start on
We're gonna take 5 minutes.
C-73,
C-70.
or, well, the numbers actually are C-76.
but it's almost to the point where sometimes we think we need to do that just so we can provide the service that we need to. A lot of our areas, some of our areas got reduced, minor tools got reduced. That's an area that we're seeing a huge increase, in just the production of nozzles, extrication equipment, fans. A lot of our, like ventilation equipment is starting to age, so we're seeing those starting to, fall off. Office equipment we raised, it was lowered, but, again, that's just because we're seeing the trend of being higher this year. Clothing supplies is another area. It has seen an increase, and we've seen a drastic increase in that, 15 to 20%, a lot of it. And unfortunately, it's the same thing. We're seeing 8-month turnaround time after we order stuff. So it's frustrating, because just how much the operation cost has. Even uniforms, our regular uniforms has gone up 15%. We had a 2-year contract. They wanted to, they said they couldn't honor the 2-year contract, and they were gonna have to raise it 8%, so we're just gonna send it out for rebid. But from what we're seeing, just looking at the market, we're gonna be a 15 to 20% increase just even on uniforms. Other than that, there's, training is something that, professional development is something that's been identified as an area that we need to develop on. Last year's budget was cut less because of the COVID. We're trying to rebound that a little bit more. I had proposed of almost 48,000. It's at 30,000 now, which will help us out. But it is an area that we definitely identify that we need to work on and prepare our people to be successful. There's so many different facets of what the fire service does, and some of them are listed on that other sheet that I gave you. And people expect us to be able to do it. Now, we only got one shot to get it right, and people depend on us to be able to get it right every time. So, and all that comes with training. It's all, you know, there's a lot of it that's specific, and if we're not getting the proper training, the proper education, the proper equipment in our guys' hands, to me, it's a liability for me. It's a liability for the city, by not having those things in place. Special services, oh, never mind. That's a basic overview of what the fire department's budget is for this year. I know we've talked about fire trucks a lot, and I don't know if you want me to bring this up, but you know, we're in a dire need. I can give you a breakdown of all our fire apparatus, but we're in a dire need of apparatus. We have 3 trucks that are 99s, one of them still frontline, and it will be replaced by the truck that's been ordered already. But our other 2 trucks are 99s. They're our reserve apparatus or standby apparatus, which are probably in service daily on some form or fashion through preventative maintenance schedules or calling crews or whatever it is. But the age of our fleet is moving faster. With those 3 being the same year, we really need to look at trying to get those out of play and get some of like our 2005, get it into reserve, so we can at least get it to last a little bit longer. Industry standards, 20 years. Obviously, we're exceeding that right now, but and we're making it. But we do spend a lot of money on maintenance. Engine 4 is probably not even going to be good to keep as a reserve per our vendor for repair. He's getting close to saying it, you know, just due to the amount of rust, the amount of deterioration in the unit in general, it needs to be almost considered to be taken off the street soon, very soon. So hopefully with the engine coming in, that truck will just go away. And the other 2 standbys will be able to last us until we get another one. But with the manufacturers out there right now, we're looking at 24 months, 18 to 24 months, doesn't matter who you buy it from, to get a fire apparatus. Unless you find one that a dealer has already spec'd for themselves, and try to get your name on something like that, which there's not very many of those out there either. So it's just a lot of challenges to have to, and you know, the bad thing, we work in an industry that's a lot of what ifs. What if this happened? But what if it did happen? And what if it was you? And what if it was your neighbor, whoever? We got to be able to do our job. We got to be able to perform when we get called to do it. That's the big thing with that. So.
While you're talking about trucks, you want to discuss
Yes.
this letter we got from manufacturer.
The truck that's on order, we've received a few letters, during this process, and the Don, I've sent, just resent them to Don today, but, probably 3 months after we ordered the truck, we got a letter from, Seagrave stating that the pandemic has really put a hamper on their, production, the ability to produce fire trucks, which it did industry-wide, but we received a letter from them stating that, you know, they were probably gonna have a hard time meeting the delivery date that we had specified in the contract. Most recently, we received a call from our sales people, and then also a letter from Seagrave, stating that there's going to be an increase in the cost of the apparatus if we want to keep it on schedule. I don't agree with this, to be honest with you, but I can tell you we need a fire truck, so that's
I'll tell you,
the
just
flip
from,
side of it.
just from my standpoint, not only do I not agree with this, I think this is cause for disqualifying them from future fire truck purchases. This is not normal business practice, and it almost feels like extortion.
Blackmail.
Yeah, and it really upsets me, and if we didn't need the fire truck, we could just tell them to kick rocks, but this is ridiculous.
I don't disagree at all. They're kind of holding us hostage on.
Yeah, they are, significantly.
And I will tell you, I did go outside and try to just reach out to some other people. Met them at FDIC, which is a fire vendor show. It's probably one of the largest Pierce dealers in the country. And I just said, hey, do you have any trucks on the line that you don't have sold yet? And they did have one on the line. It's the same delivery time as what we get here, and it's the same price. When he first gave it to me, it was about $60,000 less, and I was like, yes, this is good. And he called me back 15 minutes later and said, hey, disregard those numbers. It was $700,000, you know. So again, I know we'd have to redo the process, but I don't think money-wise we're going to find a better deal, a drastically better deal. I don't agree with what you're saying at all. I just say I need a fire truck. And both of them are going to be on about the same time schedule, but I can tell you that if we were interested in doing the Pierce, we'd have to move very, very quick, or it's not going to be available either.
Well, is this one in stock?
There's nothing in stock. It's just scheduled to be built.
Okay.
So these bigger vendors or sales groups will basically buy a truck themselves, and they use them for show, to drive around and put in shows. But you don't see a lot of them anymore just because of the demand. And like they said, none of their trucks are making it to the show state. They're selling before they get there.
So this is a legal question because we have a contract.
Right.
And we'll need an opinion from our attorney. Robert and I have been talking about it, and it's at the pleasure of this board as to what's the best thing to do in this situation. The other thing, later in this meeting, under Robert's report, we will be talking about the delays we're seeing in buying any vehicles with tires on them. So we'll save that for later, but this is pretty important because this impacts your budget.
It is.
And
I got a question for Don. Did we have a time,
It's 380 days from the specification. And then they had to pay liquidated damages, but there was if they couldn't get the materials that would be a justification for delay. But what I said to Scott today, and Robert was in that email chain, is that the problem is now obviously they have the material. So there's nothing in that contract that says once they have the materials that they are allowed a delay. So this letter right here says we've got materials.
but
So
we want to upcharge?
So
Right,
we
but
want you to
there's
pay
nothing that allows,
$91,000
right.
extra.
So that's what I said to Scott today, and I asked him for the contact information, Dictionary City County Co-op of their people, because that's our position. And if not, then we're gonna argue and say, oh, it's what we came in damages, and how many, you calculated it.
Well,
or
that's
people-
as of today, not counting, if we give them the leeway for the delay, it's 27,000
Right,
as of today. They're 108 days behind.
right.
For 400, and whatever it is, 496 days, the date that we ordered it,
Right.
take away the 380, there's 108 days
And
Right.
now.
Right.
And they still are saying it's the bill out, it's
Right.
months out, so.
well,
They
truck
haven't
hadn't
even
been
started
touched.
working on it yet. They said
Yeah,
they were gonna
even
do
the
it.
Pierce hasn't been started or touched.
Well, we don't have a contract with them.
No, I can't do it.
No,
So-
but we do with them. So, Scott's giving you the information, so I'm going to have a conversation with them this week. And, you know, our argument's gonna be, listen, there's no justification for this. You obviously have the materials now, so there's nothing in this contract that allows you to extort us and say, you have to pay extra. There's no prioritization in there as to, well, you know, if you pay more, then we'll use these materials for you. So,
And the way they, like, what Brad said, it's almost like extortion, because the way they wrote the letter, I think we have a strong case to stand on. That's an extortion letter, you know, we get you on the burner whenever we see that it's
well,
time to
it's not,
do it.
it's not criminal, but it certainly is bad business.
Yeah,
practices.
So I wanna take this opportunity to ask a very serious question about how we do our fire apparatus. For the last few years, that I've sat on here, I've been kind of, uneasy about approving all of the fire truck purchases, because we only ever have one bid, because usually what we do is we spec our trucks out so one place can build it and that's it. Is there any value to us not being as specific to allow more vendors the opportunity to bid on these trucks, to give ourselves more options, and not be as specific about what we need on that truck, so only Seagate or whoever, can build it?
I mean, our trucks haven't been, like, specific to a manufacturer. I mean, Pierce can build a stainless steel truck, E1 can build a stainless steel truck. They just chose not to bid on it. The market was so, with the Seagrave, the market was so hot, I don't think they wanted to even put in the time to try. And with the ladder truck, that was the last one before the last, you know, engine. I mean, it was the same thing. I mean, there was nothing specific about it that said that it had to be from Ferrari. It's just nobody, I don't know why nobody else bid on it, but, I would like to entertain even like the HGAC, that would, you know, and again, I don't know if that's Pierce, it does fall under HGAC.
Can you explain what you're talking about?
Houston Galveston, what is it called?
It's a co-op.
A co-op.
That's not point in discussion right now, we'll have that conversation later.
Okay, yeah.
So, what you're saying is that we need to scrap this and to go with the other dealer that you're talking about, is that what you want to do?
If I was, if there
Sounds
was,
like Tom would like to try to negotiate.
I would, I mean, this truck, the truck that they're raising the cost on it was spec'd for Henderson. I mean, it's got, I'm not saying anything specific, but, you know, it's got the crossways that we need, it's got the seating arrangement that we want. If we go with a truck that we didn't spec, it's not going to fit our, you know, it's like we build the compartments so our medical bags can fit in them. So it is, this truck was built for Henderson. If there was a big difference in time and a big difference in price, I'd say absolutely. I completely understand what you're saying about, I don't agree with it at all. I just want to find.
Well, we
I don't mind to
we almost-
negotiate the one we've got, I'm just, for future reference, I don't wanna ever deal with this company again.
But we're almost in, what, 18 months?
Yeah,
And it's gonna take how long to build?
it'll be October.
To when?
We should receive it in October, November
Okay, of this year,
of this year, yeah.
okay.
And that's industry-wide, that's not just,
Okay, if, like you said, if we can get it done in
We'll know
time.
something by Tuesday.
Okay, yeah. I'm like, this company, not, now, that right there, I would never vote that to anybody.
No.
you know,
I mean, next time we send a bid to them, we'll ask them and see if they'll give us $91,000 for the opportunity to bid on the truck.
Yeah, and that right there.
You're right, though, we've got some sunk costs and we've already designed this, so we'd like to have it.
Yeah.
We wouldn't like to pay $91,000 more for it, but we can get it.
Yeah, and when we look at the truck, you know, we looked at what aluminum versus the steel and how long we're expected to operate. I mean, that was the only reason why we went with stainless steel, was something that's going to last 25 to 30 years, which if you look at the E1s that we're running now, they're gonna have to last 25 to 30 years before they're completely out of service. And I don't see that going away. We just gotta make sure we're building trucks that are gonna, it's just like anything. It's like your microwave at home, you know.
It sounds like
Microwaves from the 80s last 20 years. Microwaves from today last 4 years, 5 years. And they don't expect them to last any longer.
does it sound like, if we know we need a truck in 3 years, we need to go ahead and get that on
We're gonna discuss.
on order now?
We're gonna discuss that under Roberts,
Okay.
because there's something, that's a totally different subject.
Okay.
Scott, I cut you off, it's not appropriate to have that
That's
discussion,
fine.
because we just had issues like everybody else in the country on purchasing equipment and deal. With that being said, in time of being of the essence, do you want to go ahead and
Yeah, I can
discuss
go ahead.
this? And I wanna make a comment, okay? We put this budget together, it's an 8% increase, over last year. Scott came to me with this request and I turned him down. He asked if he could present to the commission. I said, yes, you can take your chances with the commission, but it's not something right now that I feel like we can recommend unless if Scott can convince y'all that we need to do it. So, Scott, I'll let you take it from there.
All right. The first sheet is the employee history, since 2015. I think this has to speak a little bit to everybody. We had people retire, not just to retire, but to retire to take other jobs. But they were retirement age, so I'll give them that. We've had 7 people go to other fire departments. All fire departments that make more money than Henderson. We've had 5 recently that have quit to go to private sector work. 2 for construction, 1 for finance, and 1 for farm supply. We are seeing a huge decrease in numbers, and I just listed for the last 4 years, which doesn't show huge numbers. But when I took the test, there were 125 people that showed up at North Middle School to take the firefighter test. In 2019, we had 35. In 2022, we have 18 that applied to take the test. And of those 18, we're gonna lose 15 to 25% of those that can't pass the physical agility test. And that's a Kentucky standard. That's not something that we do just as Henderson. So we are seeing big numbers, a reduced number of candidates. On my pay, our salary and stipend pay information, if you flip it over, it printed really weird. I apologize for that. If you flip over the front page, it shows firefighter salaries compared. And as you can see, we're the lowest in the area. We received the increase in pay back when they changed over to hazardous duty pay, and was it 16, I think?
It was
Yeah,
16.
That was the last pay raise we got. I know law enforcement have received some since then. But it really lines us up to, it's a struggle. You know, and again, in today's climate, that's what people are looking for, is the money. I put Evansville on there, I know I was told not to, but Evansville is a direct competition to us. People want to do that. I know we can't compete with their salary, but it's a number that we have to look at. And I even listed Boonville. Boonville's a 1 fire station department, and it's starting off at $52,000. So this is across the board. I had some direction from Buzzy on which cities to try to look at, which I tried to hit most of them. I did list Owensboro just because they're close. I list Evansville because they're close. Boonville. When you look at what...
Before you move on, do you know what the same graph would look like if we were talking about average salaries instead of starting salaries?
I know, but I can get it.
I just didn't know if
I got most of our numbers
like-
off of a state.
I didn't know how our rank and step program compares to others.
Correct.
Like, I can see where we hire in, but then I'm curious to know if we have a higher acceleration of pay than other places, and that, you know, when that catch-up point might be too.
Right, I can tell you a couple of them on the list, they start off and stay the same their entire, career as a firefighter. And that's just to build the, I guess, the pot early on versus having to build up, and then they get a longevity pay. But I want to say maybe Paducah on that, but I have to look it up. I can get you that information.
Okay.
It's on the
Some of
chart.
them might be desperate, they might be so shorthanded that they're
Right.
bumping the salary up just to get qualified candidates.
Right, and that's kind of where I'm trying to, I mean, we are in that point now to where we're struggling. I said we got on the list, we got one that's looking at moving to Bloomington. I know her information, I know their information is in the process already. Again, more money, better pension in Indiana, and I can't argue with that. So if that's the struggle that we're finding, and we gotta be able to provide a service. When the state went away from the pension system, that's probably when we saw the people not wanting to stay or being committed to this organization, because they have the 401k, they can go wherever they want and take that money with them. People with a pension, they don't have that luxury.
What do you mean?
What?
Am I missing something about you're saying we don't have a pension?
Yeah, the new firefighters, they have a hybrid knowledge.
It's guaranteed returns, it's like a
4% guarantee.
401k, that it's
Or
portable,
more.
where they don't have, if they should leave this fire department and go work for Gibbs, they take that money, they roll it over into their own private pension, or private retirement fund. It's different now.
Yes.
It's much more attractive to hires than have to stay 25 years.
Because they get it.
When did they start getting that?
I started in 2012, so the beginning of 2014. 2014.
I thought it was
And that's when we started seeing probably the biggest increase of
2014. That was like.
young people or, not senior people.
uses the
So
401.
they just changed, the retirees' medical benefits was horrible until they just voted on to change that too, to where they'll get a little bit more money to put toward their medical when they retire. But before that, you'd had to almost work 33 years to have any amount of money to pay for your medical when you retire. Again, that's all state stuff. On the second page was, and the idea behind this stipend thing is I know we can't go across the board. I'd like to go across the board and give an increase similar to like what PD has received, but I understand we can't do that financially. I'm looking for a way to try to reward the guys that receive extra training and skills to be divers, to be rope people, to be car seat techs, to be confined space techs, to be trench techs, because those jobs are required of us as public servants. They're going to call 911. They're going to do it. We have to be able to do it. Legally, I can't put somebody in it that doesn't have that certification, or I'm liable. It's all goes back to the legality side of it. The second page of this talks about the department, and does anybody say you have to have specialized training in your basic job description? And nobody does. I listed EMTs. There's what, 4 departments that receive extra money just to be EMTs. We include that in our job description. And have specialized training. Most of them either receive guaranteed overtime or some type of stipend for their specialized training, which is kind of the direction that I was looking at. I don't want to waste your time with all the importance of the specialized training unless you would like me to go through any of them. I broke each one down so you could see what the requirement is. And this isn't something they would just get. They would have to actually prove that they maintain it. They would have to show that they got their training. They'd have to go to an approved course. And most of our guys have already done this. But it breaks down each one. Go down to the last two pages, the proposed plans for the specialized training. I'm looking at a possibility of either a stipend or a shift differential of 25 cents for shift personnel for the year. And with Robert's help, it came out to about a $1,500 benefit. In real life, that includes all the Medicare, pension, workman's comp, unemployment. It was like 832 was what if it was just standard, if it was just a normal year, is what it would come out to. Or just doing a stipend where they just receive a one-time benefit, for that annually for that training. And again, that came out to about $20 less than the hourly rate. $20 less. Which, again, it's a little bit more, the stipend fee was a little bit more, but on the hourly, I guess there's the potential for them to get a few more, but this was based on, with some overtime built into it, quite a bit of overtime actually, so. I guess the important thing, I'm struggling as a chief asking guys to do stuff, and they're not dumb. They look at things, and we have a great group of guys that are doing it for the right reason, but they're not receiving any reward or benefit for doing that. And the guys that are doing the specialized training right here are putting their lives at risk 100 times more than the guy that's not, and they receive the exact same pay. And that's where I struggle with it. I don't want to like point this out as being the main reason, but you look at like Pratt's coming in. Pratt's going to increase our potential for trench type operations, confined space. International paper has people in confined spaces every day. International paper will too, I'm sure. And that is just an increased risk for us to have to go. In my career, we've gone to international paper like 4 or 5 times for industrial type incidents where somebody's been stuck in a high angle situation or in a confined space that we had to go get out. So I don't know if they'll be any different, but the increased risk is there. We're not going to make probably fire runs at international paper with this, the fire suppression system there, but we will make those type of calls. And it's guys that have to go get this extra specialized training. We have hazmat techs on it. Hazmat runs up and down this city, up and down the river, up and down the rail every single day. We could even go as far as saying SOBIC doesn't sit in Henderson, but we're in a direct line of SOBIC if they have a release, and I'm not sure that we could even do anything about it, but there's a lot of potential in this area of Henderson that, to have those type of specialized trainings. I'm pretty passionate about it. I wish I could fix it across the board, but I'd like to compare it to even like, say, a building maintenance guy. There's building maintenance guys and there's building maintenance guys with AC repair tech certification. That guy gets paid more. That's all I'm trying to do is just reward the guys for the additional training. And again, it's a small fix. Like I said, I would like to fix it across the board, but I know that's not probably in the cards. So that's my
What's the
plea on
increase that we had for the fire department just recently, the increased percentage?
You mean the police department?
We did.
No, just for the.
Well, it's 8.6% for everything. It looks like this would be about additional, well, if you did the hourly, the additional.
Was it 6% for everybody, or what did
We didn't receive any kind of specific pay just for the fire department.
No, it was for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In this budget?
3%.
It was 3%.
No.
Let's let Robert answer.
3% effective January 1 with a mid-year increase.
Yeah.
3%.
And then we had another 3% for the coming year.
Yes, sir.
So,
To be effective July 1. Police did not get the mid-year because they had gotten the $2 per hour increase. So they were eliminated. Now, the police department, those secretaries, they got it. The police officers did not get, they were not part of the increase.
How are we treating the fire department in relation to, like, we're doing 3% COLA, 2% merit for all our non-hazardous people? What are we giving the fire department in this budget?
But their scale is increased by 3%.
Uh-huh.
They have their special scale. Now that, theirs is different because they could go 2 years without anything, and then they may get a step increase for longevity or.
We're the same pay scale as like what the police have. It's just the police pay scale is $4,000 higher in each category, approximately.
Well, what we would like to do at this time, I would like to have conversation about this with y'all. If you have any comments you'd like to pass back to me individually, let me know. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I do.
On this sheet right here,
Yes.
what I would like to see on that sheet is your total, total wages, including overtime, divided by the number of people that you've got as compared to others, because this doesn't really tell me a whole lot, just on the starting, you know, but
Right.
I don't know how many people, you know, you deal with total cost, and, I don't know what the total is on these other, maybe they have, maybe more, but they got 10 less people, you know? I don't know. But,
You're kind of
I can tell you on the,
Boomville, they may
Yeah.
have
yeah,
3 people,
yeah.
so, and they're able to pay the 52, so I think, okay, that's what he's talking about.
You know, can you go with any fewer people and then take that money and put it?
yeah, I know the police operate with a fewer, I mean, they allotted so many people, but they run a fewer number. We can't do it, I mean, we can't do it and meet any standard. If the city wants to accept not meeting a standard, you know, and that's NFPA, that's ISO, City Managers Association, they all have identified standards for fire service. I mean, we could do that. We're at the bare minimum right now.
Okay, you got $1.2 million in overtime. Can you cut the overtime?
The overtime this year was higher because of COVID.
Can you cut overtime next year because of that?
I would say it would be less, yes. But I mean, we run a
Well, you're-
set number of people off each shift. And the only way we go over is if somebody's sick, military leave, something like that. So, I mean, we don't intentionally schedule unscheduled overtime, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's just keeping an apparatus staffed, it's keeping apparatus on the street. And also trying to get holidays in. We got guys that, I mean, they're maxed out on their holidays, vacation. They're maxed out on their vacation. Because if the shift's full, they don't get to take it. So they just keep banking, or they just keep building it up. And we have to take our holiday. We take our holidays. That's another thing that we have to try to get in every year, because they can't carry over. So it's like the perfect storm of what it is.
Couple questions.
Yes.
How many guys are you short?
Currently, we have 2 in training right now. We exhausted the current list. I did implement a lateral program. I'm looking at bringing a lateral in. That'll make us, that'll actually fill the 3 shifts. In July, we're gonna lose 1 to 2 people. So we'll be short 2, and we'll be short those 2 until probably September, October. And that's just because we have to wait for the new list to come in place and then train.
Do you use any, on-call?
We do not use any on-call. We will call people back. Again, and I guess when we have a fire, if it's a confirmed fire, that pretty much depletes all 4 fire stations, which leaves the city basically unprotected. We try not to do that. We try to keep that 4th truck to where they can make a call if they need to. We do have mutual aid agreements with Evansville, Owensboro, the county, but we will recall our own personnel, and they staff those reserve apparatus to bring us up to provide, coverage to the city. I come in for most fires, so that at least there's somebody to manage or facilitate who's gonna go and who can respond, stuff like that. But we don't use an on-call program. There are departments that use on-call, where you get paid per run or whatever, you have a recall program. But that's not the animal that we currently have. It's a different structure, I guess you'd say.
Questions, when we got our dive team together, so maybe I overlooked this. So you're saying if you become a diver, is that a different category on a salary scale when you move into that group?
Currently, no.
And so you just,
That's kind of what you're asking
It's
for
it's
now.
almost like, yeah, that's what I'm asking for now with the stipend thing. Just to give the guys that are doing the extra thing, the extra training, the specialized skills, a little bit of bonus for doing what they do. No, right now, a diver doesn't get anything, and I can tell you diving is up there in the high ranks of being one of the more dangerous things we do. And being on a river city, I mean, I think it's a service we should provide. But it's a very risky thing, and not everybody can be a diver. You know, we can't go in and say, we just hired you, you have to be a diver. It just doesn't work that way.
Are young REs, are they eligible to be divers when they come in?
Yeah.
If they're,
And we have a lot, I mean, out of the two we have now, one of them has expressed interest. The lateral has expressed interest and is currently, has his sport diving certification. So we are able to transfer a sport diving certification into a public safety diving certification. So, again, that's not why we chose him. He's a lateral from a local department, just trying to get closer to
I
home.
know we gotta move on, but one more question.
Yeah.
So, all these many years, when we had pay scale and upgrades, you know how we did? People who got different certifications were in their pay scale. Didn't that cover that?
No, I mean,
So how could you get promoted if you didn't have certain, you know, why would you be promoted to different things if you're not able to get more education?
currently, I mean, a firefighter certification list just basically has to be a certified Kentucky firefighter and an EMT. It does say that, you know, you may have to participate in these certain skills, but it doesn't say you have to be certified in those skills. To be a engineer, you have to have your driver operator certification, and that's really it to go to that next level, which that's their primary job is driver operator. And to be a company officer, you have to have your fire officer certification, your instructor certification, because we rely on the company officers to train the crews. And obviously all the NIMS requirements. All our guys have all the NIMS requirements, but there's nothing that says you have to be a diver, you have to be a rope guy, you have to be this. It's always just been somebody volunteering to do it. And with the change of NFPA and the standards out there are more liabilities put on us. You know, you have to have this. You have to make sure they're maintaining the 40 hours of training. And it's hard to motivate a guy to do it when he's doing it extra and not getting anything for it.
What's the total dollar amount that your proposal is?
One of them was 149 and the other was 134.
What now, 150?
149 and 134. Just like I said, this is a proposed plan. I told Mr. Newman if said I give you this much, I'd find a way to make that work too. But it is. This is probably even on the low side for what it's worth that they're doing. If that makes any sense.
You have 62 firefighters on
We
staff?
have 57 suppression that are like on shift. There's 3 of us in staff and then 2 secretaries.
57.
I was looking at your 2 secretaries.
I just want to say this too, but wouldn't it be easier to move up in salary that you had if you put in there that you gotta get certain qualifications? And if you're a diver, it puts you in another salary class. That way it would already be set. Because what happens is, if we start giving out money for every certificate, everything, that really wouldn't be set in stone. You know what I'm talking about? You need certain amount of people doing certain things, right? Why shouldn't we have it set in our salary? Say like if you move up to be, I don't know, if you're a diver, divers get this salary. So that would give people incentive to want to be a diver. Same thing you're asking for.
Right.
But not piecemealing, you know what I'm saying? Okay, he got his certification for the rope. Well, he gets this amount of money. Well, if you move up to this pay class, that's already included in there. See what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, the idea behind this was, I've just modeled it after other departments in the state. Some of them give the hourly, some of them give the one-time fee. And to be honest with you, there's actually departments out there, like there's a firefighter class 1, firefighter class 2, firefighter class 3, and it is kind of what you're saying. If you're a class 2 firefighter, you have 2 special certs,
Right.
but you also get $3,000 more. If you're a firefighter class 3, you have 4 special certs, and you get, you know, so there, and it doesn't specify what special certs. And I guess the big thing is what do you do with that person that doesn't get it? You know, they say they don't they don't meet their training requirement to be a diver, then we have to knock them down. You know, I guess they go back to a different salary classification at that point. I don't know the answer to that. Because there is, I mean, it would be continuing education, you know. And Josh is a good example. I mean, he, due to his body and his mechanics, he decided he didn't want to be a diver anymore at one point in his career.
Yeah.
You know, so he's like, hey, I'm gonna pull back, I'll just be a shore guy. But he didn't keep his dive certification, because he just couldn't do it. And I said, it's not for everybody. It requires a special
Well, yeah,
mindset to do it.
you know, and I think too, that the diving part, and that's the one I really see, diving comes to life. But we're trying to get to the same place, I do think so. But I think we need a lot more talking to get to the same place.
Well, in sense of time, we're running about an hour behind schedule.
Yeah.
I would ask the commissioners if y'all would reach out, if y'all have any comments, please let me know, and thank you, Scott.
I will, Josh just brought up, I will say just real quick, is on a diver, if a diver's honest with their life insurance company, it does raise their life insurance policy by approximately $500 to $750.
It probably would.
Skydiving and scuba diving are the two that constitutes a high risk. You know, and I'm not saying everybody's honest with it, but they're not honest with it, but it does pose that, and so we've had guys that have pulled out because of that. You know, I can't do it because it's gonna cost my family this much more money to do it. So, are there any other questions across the fire department?
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you guys, be safe.
Appreciate your support.
Bye.
Let me get a summary.
Thank you.
Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Appreciate it.
If you want me to. Make sure they know you're in a meeting.
Make sure they're okay.
A lot of questions. It's the slowest we've been since we haven't had Russell. Russell's been here at budget meeting.
Grace,
Well, the other thing is,
Yeah, you guys got mine.
how are you?
Doing okay.
All right. You know the routine, if you can give us a highlight of your department
All right.
and what you foresee in your budget.
Okay. So for the Parks and Recreation Department, we've been, operating, pretty standardly for the last couple of years, even with COVID, although there were several of our recreational offerings that we couldn't offer the last several years. This year is the first time we've gone back to normal. We foresee in our upcoming budget, the biggest increases are from contracted services outside that we, from outsiders that we use for mowing, primarily. The cost of mowing continuously goes up every year, and that's one of our biggest increases. We are looking at making some upgrades to some of our amenities, some of our buildings, some of our facilities that have not seen a lot of, updates, renovations in several years. The Denton Shelter being one of them has not seen, it's still, very much so a building of the 80s. That's something that we'd like to look at upgrading this year for our Parks Division, and then some of our other facilities, some of our playgrounds. I think the oldest of our playgrounds is actually one that was purchased in 1976, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's got a few years on it.
Let me mention to you, from observation, I walk a lot through the park, you know, with my exercise. That round swing over there gets more views than any other thing in the.
If we charged $1, we could afford probably half of what Scott just had.
I think that two of those in each park would probably satisfy a lot of people.
No, big kids, little
Big
kids.
kids. Yeah, that's true. So that's for our Parks Division. Our Cemetery Division, continues to operate normally. There will be some upcoming requests in future years for some equipment for that. We've got backhoes that are reaching the end of their lifespan, including one that a John Deere backhoe that the John Deere dealer has literally told us he's afraid to upgrade the software that runs the computer on it. He said our best bet is we continue to operate as normal. If he were to attempt to upgrade the computer system on that, he could not guarantee that that machine would work the next day. So it's operating now. It's operating with no issues, but whenever he tried to perform regular routine maintenance and update on the computer, he said that at this point, that computer system is at the end of its lifespan.
So do you have a 5-year schedule for equipment replacement?
We do.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that's one of the upcoming. The third division that we've got is the pool division. Obviously, we're doing a lot this year with the downtown water feature. A lot of expenses going into making some pretty drastic repairs. As of right now, if all the equipment continues to come in as scheduled and weather doesn't knock out any of our construction days, it looks like that we will be able to make our opening Memorial Day weekend if everything continues as it is now. Now, that's not to say it won't rain, it'll rain tomorrow or something out of our hands.
It's going to.
You're ready the rest of the week.
Well, but we as of now, we are scheduled to open Memorial Day weekend as we normally do.
And I haven't really looked at it, Trace, but I've had several people ask me what the wall is. Is there a wall that?
There is. Prior to that wall held all of the plaques of all the donor plaques, and that wall originally was a four foot tall wall that was 20-something feet wide, and on the front of that wall were all the stone plaques for all the sponsors and donors, and that's what that wall is. Although they raised the height because on the back of that 4-foot wall were all of the electrical boxes and all the panels that controlled it. And whenever the electrician had to look at anything or work on anything, at best, he could sit and work on it. At worst, he was laying on his stomach or on his back trying to work on it. So we created a taller wall so that the electric boxes, when placed on the back, he can work from a standing position.
Gotcha, okay.
And the other problem is the old wall sat on top of pipe that the weight of that contributed to some of the deterioration of the whole feature. So when we got into this, we had to tear it out because we couldn't do the work because it's sitting on top of the pipe. So when we went back with it, we moved it away from all the piping structures.
Yeah.
Sort of set it up in a way that would get the recognition plaques back on. And then I've been talking to Donna, maybe adding some visual features that will make it more attractive than what it is now. So.
One of the things I will mention about the pool division, and I think that we're all aware of the ongoing age of the Atkinson pool. That pool was renovated well over 20 years ago. I don't have the exact date.
That would have been the year I started, or either 95 or 96, because I was brand new and I was put down there at the pool for that summer. So it's been a very long time. A very long time.
Based on a lot of the work that Mark Simmons and the maintenance division and those guys have put into that pool, it's still operating at this time. But just like everything else, everything reaches the end of its usable lifespan. And while it is still usable and like a water feature expected to open Memorial Day weekend this year, in the not so distant future, there's going to have to be a decision made about that pool. Not tomorrow, probably not next year, but in the very near future.
Preaching to me, you're preaching to the choir. I've been trying to get us on board with having a great swimming facility for the kids and grandparents to come and that they play with their grandbabies. Not just the pool. Like my daughter tells me, you didn't come out of Stone Ages. Your daddy, your phone's in Stone Ages. But anyway, having something that you can just have a whole day at the facility. I don't know if we can afford it, but that's what I've been pushing for quite a while. And the day we start on it, I'm going to be so happy I think we can get there. I don't know when, but I think we will.
Well, I think the important thing is you brought us up to date. You're telling us years in advance, and we need to start talking about it in the future.
It's one of those things that it's operating well now. It's got a lot of tender loving care that's keeping it going, but there is gonna come a time that we'll need to make some hard decisions about what the future of that pool's gonna be.
Attendance records of the act.
I'm sorry?
Do you keep attendance records?
We do.
What's like the average, do you know, range?
I can get that to you. I don't, off the top of my head, I don't remember that. I have them all in a spreadsheet, and I can get them to you pretty quickly. It is well utilized, and it's got the, one of the main characteristics, it's the only public pool in the in the county of Henderson, not just the city, but in the county of Henderson. There's country club pool, an Aqua City pool where you have to be a member to attend it, and the YMCA pool where you have to be a member to swim in it. But as far as just a family deciding to go out and wanting to go to a pool outing at spur of the moment or just without paying a membership fee, that's the only place in Henderson County you can do that. And then the last of our divisions is the recreation division, which includes the JSK Center, as well as some of our programs and activities that we do, the Easter egg hunts and the candy cane events and after-school programs and summer camp programs that we all offer at the JFK Center and throughout the community. That's going very well. The staff at the JFK Center is operating well. We are a position short, but we've got that in budget, and we'll be hiring another part-time employee for there start that process in the future. But everything is going well there. We're planning on there have been major upgrades made to that facility as far as painting, HVAC, parking lots are being looked at and will be repaired this year, and a lot of other things. Office building and office space has been completed in there over the last several years. The supervisor did not even have an office space in there that he could perform, evaluations were done outside for privacy and things like that. So we've corrected a lot of those issues that have just kind of been an ongoing thing.
Trish, do you hear any comments about how the Bridges golf course is doing?
Just anecdotally, I know a few people that play, and they're impressed with it, and they say that on Saturdays and Sundays, they're doing great business out there. I'm a scramble golfer, which means I play twice a year, and I play in a foursome that plays the best shot, and they never pick my shot.
I was gonna point out, though, it's nice to see on the golf budget that in 20, 21, 22, and 23, we will have spent a total of $60,000 instead of $1 million to provide golf for the community. We've made our money back and then some in terms of how much we are spending on golf. So
I will tell you, in talking with the operators, they're very happy. The only thing they ever ask for is anything maintenance-wise that's not covered under their contract. They do come to us and ask, and we've had to replace an air conditioning unit. We've got a dead tree we've got to take down right now. It's been very minor, so we're very fortunate to have good operators.
Who on this board plays golf?
I do.
Why don't we get together one day? I will go with you. I've only played once in my life, and we'll go. I do want to see it.
Yeah.
Because I really hadn't.
Oh, it's actually, they've done a really good job with it.
And
It's
I
really
would
nice.
like to, we'll get together, just go out there as a group and laugh at me.
I want to add to what Commissioner Pruitt said about the swimming pool, and add a little bit more to that. For a few years, and not only in the swimming aspect, but for a few years, I've really thought that Atkinson Park itself, along with the Muni property, is an untapped resource. And I don't mean untapped, because it has been tapped, but I mean it has a lot of potential for this community. It's such a big park, and if we take a look, especially with the two properties together as one congruent property, there is a Riverview access that we're not fully taking advantage of back there that you know, would be costly, but we could do something there. We could upgrade our play equipment. We could do a bigger swimming pool. We need to make sure that our needs and necessities are covered, first of all, and make sure that we have things prioritized still. But if we can find room in the budget going forward, if we're gonna have to replace the pool anyway, it might be a good time to start taking a look at that whole property and seeing how we can maximize its potential, not only for the people in our community, but to draw people here. You know, like Owensboro has Smothers Park, and I'm not suggesting that we do a Smothers Park, but I am suggesting that there's no reason why we can't do something that's equally as nice, that would bring people into Henderson from out of the county. So just to get that on the table too.
Well, here's what I'll ask Trace to do. After the swim pool season's over, things settle down, why don't you be prepared? We'll have a work session to have this conversation. In the meantime, Trace, maybe you could start working on what you envision, and we can have that discussion.
And if you don't mind, Trace, there's something I'd specifically like for you to take a look at too. There's a park in Madisonville called Mar Park, and they have some super nice event barns there. And you know, it might be nice, especially with the rolling hills there, and we've already got some commitments that this wouldn't interfere with. But you know, maybe if we could work in some event barns on the old Muni property, and it would still allow cross country to use it and frisbee golf and whatever. But I was really impressed. I went down there for an event, and just the amount of people that it can accommodate, and electrical and all that other stuff. It was really nice. What's that?
I think they're a lot more affordable to build.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Maybe see what kind of pools other people in other cities our size in Kentucky have done, if there are, see what they've done, and
Newer ones.
yeah, new ones, and how they've done it, and what their admission rates are. And I know, I think it was Somerset or London or somebody down there really did a big deal.
With the wave thing, that little thing.
But of course, they charge
Yeah.
$25 to get in, you know, or something too, you know, so it's not a.
Yeah, we wanna make it so we don't build it, they can afford it custody.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a good planning session.
Yeah. Good.
Any other questions?
Good job, Trace.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Will you send Ryan the lingua in?
No problem.
And take a cookie.
I've already had a couple.
Pushing them.
Yeah, I've had a couple.
Take a brownie. Take a brownie.
Nope.
They've got icing
I'm
all
not a
without.
brownie guy.
He's looking.
There's cheesecakes.
No, I think you've got
I've been
something
seeing
going
Trace
on
walking.
with the clinic, I think. It sounds like you're getting a kickback from the clinic.
Bag of chips.
I think we're on Facebook Live. You could just invite the people who are watching to come over and grab some food if you want. Come on up, let's hit it, Brandon.
Look, you can't get in.
We're gonna talk about finance.
Yeah, we're saving this.
Finance department.
We're gonna treat him like a poker player. Right. Ryan, first of all, everybody knows Ryan Walingua. Hey, he's been so kind and gracious he's the acting police chief. Bless him.
Thank you. Sorry.
And, Ryan had this budget process thrust upon him. And I will say he's done an excellent job asking questions. So Robert helped him, so sort of take it easy on him if he can't answer any questions, but I feel like he's prepared, so. Brian, do you want to do maybe just an overview of the department, talk a little bit about staffing or lack thereof, and then maybe update them on what and how you've been operating the department, and maybe what you want to recommend going forward?
So up until this year, the max for the department has been 61 officers, and I'm very thankful to everyone in this room, because I know you guys have done a lot to assist us with working with out-of-county take-homes and alternative shifts and different things to make us more competitive. But, with all that, we are still only at, 50 sworn officers and 1 at the academy.
And
So
what's full complement?
It was 61. This budget recommends taking it down 3, and part of that is we've moved to 12-hour shifts, and so that has increased the overtime budget significantly. The 12-hour shift is very popular with the officers, and it does help with recruitment. That before, on fixed dates, you would come on and you would get maybe Tuesday, Wednesday off for the first couple of years, and now 12s, every officer gets every other weekend off. So that's a whole lot easier on the household, and they work 7 days out of every pay period. But it works out to be pretty good for them. But like I said, with that, we're at 50 sworn officers and 1 at the academy who will get sworn in when he gets back. 5 of those are currently retired, so they're working on a year-to-year contract, which I'm very glad they're willing to come back and help us. But it does make it a little bit difficult on a long-term basis that year to year they may not come back. We are about to add 2 more retirees to that that are going to help us, but once again, that raises the number of retirees. We are struggling to find qualified applicants that are coming in as standard employees. At the moment, obviously Chief is out as far as open slots. Our assistant chief slot's open. We have 1 lieutenant, 2 sergeants spots open, and total of 7 officers based on this budget spots that are still open. But overall, I'm very happy with the actual people we have, but I would really love to have more, but judging by the number of city vacancies I'm sure that a lot of other departments are in the same boat.
Now, one of your officers, and somebody will know the name, came and spoke to us about 6 weeks ago or 2 months ago and talked about a recruiting plan. And has anything ever happened with that, or is it showing any promise? Or
So some of the things we've done with recruiting is, obviously we updated the department photos. We started increasing the use of social media to try to reach out, along with other websites like Indeed, Police Magazine, Police One. And then obviously the other things you guys are very aware of and you've helped with, like take-home cars, and different shifts, things like that. We're still struggling with low numbers of applicants. When I came through to take the written test, most of North Middle School's cafeteria was full of people. And now we're getting 5 or 6 people. So we will continue to look at ways we can do it better, but right now we are hurting for applicants. With that, I know I don't think anybody really foresaw where we're at right now as far as the last couple of years and what's happened recently with everything, but our pay scale, I wasn't originally planning on being in this meeting, so my data is a little bit short, but with the new raises and stuff, OPD, and Paducah, and Madisonville, we're all along the track that their starting pay is going to be about our 10-year officer pay. And then KSP's is going to be between our 12 and 14-year officer pay. Hopkinsville is the best scenario, is about our year 3 officer pay. So I don't know if Chief's had conversations with you about that, but it's going to be another thing that's going to be difficult to attract good quality candidates. Because unfortunately, there's only so many applicants for any of the jobs out there, and everyone's competing heavily for them.
One thing I want to comment about the take-home car, I always question that program, but apparently it paid off a week or 2 ago when a officer who had a take-home car was coming into work and ran across a bad accident and was able to administer aid until an ambulance got there. And it was in the county. So that one incident, I guess, has proved to me that there is value in having those vehicles in the county or into an adjoining county. So
There are. That's very helpful. I know in years past, we had we have a member of the emergency response team living in Owensboro, and it would have been very helpful for him to be able to get a March Cruiser with his gear and come directly to a scene rather than having to drive over in a personal vehicle, pick stuff up, and then go where he's going. Especially for call-out positions like detectives, anything like that may be in surrounding county, it is very helpful for us. I know it's a burden for the city, but it is very helpful for us.
Y'all, now, we'll talk again at the end of the meeting, but there is a request for police vehicles.
Is there
Dawn,
two?
well, there's two shown, but Dawn Wynn will tell you later the update on getting vehicles. And, much like everything else, you can't get them. So, Brian, is there anything else you want to discuss, or do y'all have questions for him?
No, I just think we're in a really tough position on this side of the table because the budget has gone from $7 to $9 million. And then we're still not paying enough, comparatively speaking, according to what you just said. And so it's, you know, I'm staring at the budget thinking, wow, we're at 9, how can we get it down to 8? And then you're asking for more at the same time, and so that's really putting us in a difficult position, but I know that everybody up here wants to do whatever we can to make sure that your department continues to function at a high level, so.
And I appreciate that. I know you guys are doing what you can, and really more than I've heard of in the last couple of years, but it is very difficult right now. There's a lot of competition out there for the few people that want to go into law enforcement.
Just pass on to the guys that we really appreciate the job you're doing.
Absolutely.
It makes me feel good in one sense when I see a tragedy on TV that it's not here in Henderson, Kentucky. And I say that just to let you guys know that you're doing a great job. And I know the atmosphere about policemen is rough right now. And that's one of the reasons, too, applications are down. And maybe we'll come up with some stuff later to try to get the morale up and shine a better light in the community, and at least in Henderson. I always tell people, I can only do what I can do in Henderson. And everybody take care of their own little spot and try to raise it up, and we'll be better. So we'll do something. Maybe we'll have a barbecue and invite the policemen and the community. We'll do something, because right now the morale and young kids wanting to be a policeman is at a low. And I think we can do something to let them know that, hey, they're just like everybody else. They're a father, they're a neighbor, they're somebody's son and daughter, and they're here to protect you. They're not here to hurt you.
Deal. Thanks, sir.
No, thank you.
Do you mind to send Jordan in and you go back out?
And I'm gonna do it to you too. Take a cookie.
No, thank you, I appreciate that.
Oh, come on.
911's on C-179.
You know, we're looking at that, of course, I was looking at that too, that $9 billion, and it's almost all in that personnel,
It is.
you know,
Because I was having trouble figuring out how we had 10 fewer personnel than in 2020, and yet our,
but
you
now,
know,
I
but we
think
did
one
give
of
a 10%
one of the
increase.
things, help me think through this though, Robert, on this 2022 projection, that is indicating the full, I mean, that's indicating actual policemen that we have on the payroll right now
Right.
in 2022.
What I do, I have a spreadsheet that I use to create the projection where I took whatever was, I'm gonna say it was first part of February, or maybe mid-February. Took the number of days for that, July 1 through February 15th. Okay? That is, prorated that over the entire fiscal year. So if we have someone leave, if we had some here and they leave, well, that's probably a high number.
Yeah.
However, if we have a fire department where they become fully staffed, that's
Yeah.
probably a low number. So it's just our best
Yeah.
guess.
But it's, what I'm wondering is, in our projection for our budget for 2023, does that include more
That includes full complement.
full complement? And in 2022, we didn't have full complement.
Yeah, he's got 10 vacancies, that's the reason.
So that's why the projection is lower than the budget.
Right.
You know, and then we also have the 12-hour shifts, which generates overtime,
Mhm.
right?
Got it?
And then the state pension level keeps going up.
Yeah.
But they offset that overtime with 3 less positions.
Yeah.
They permanently, or semi-permanently took those out.
So now their full complement's 58 instead of 61.
But it's a challenge, and it's, several challenges, and it gets to the point of, you know, you think our police and fire and 911 and what we pay the ambulance service is almost 50% of the total budget.
Right, oh, yeah, emergency services. make
Yeah,
it-
emergency
probably more than
services,
that.
50%.
Actually got a chart.
We have more revenue to do more, you know, you can't, where are you gonna get it, you know? Okay, 911.
Hello, Gordon Webb, 911 Director.
Thanks for being here, we appreciate you.
Yes, sir. So, any questions for me?
How's
Pretty
things-
self-explanatory.
How's things going?
Explain the recommendation that was made earlier today.
Sure. So I did write a memo, of course, to include that on the next commission meeting, but basically it's a recommendation from the city county co-op to purchase a new logging recording software, which will come before the commissioners. It's $111,000 and some change, but basically that will impact the budget as far as projection. It will be going up from the projection to $111,000 more. They did give their recommendation on that, so we just hope that the commissioners do as well, so that we can move forward with that purchase to not impact the services in June.
But you also said that 111,000 is covered in the budget, although it may not be covered in that particular
Yes,
category?
yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Jordan, what was software?
Yes, it's a logging recorder. The name is Eventide, Eventide. And I sent you and Donna a memo on that, but it's what logs the phone calls and radio traffic.
Thank you.
Maybe explain a little bit how critical that is.
Okay, so the radio upgrade, which is already paid for, is included in maintenance fees. We are coming upon that in June, and that upgrade will make our logging recorder, which records the phone calls and the radio traffic, it will make what we have now obsolete. So we were given an option to update what we have now for $60,000 or to purchase the new software for $111,000. The software that we have currently, it would just bring it up to date to function with the upgrade, but it's an ancient dinosaur that needs to be replaced, and the new software would enable a lot of integration with new next generation 911 capabilities. So it would capture text messages, it would capture any videos. Of course, we're not to the video data yet, but in the event that we move towards that in the next few years, then it will be able to capture that. It will capture live map data. So it will basically capture everything that the call taker sees as it happens, and we can provide that for any court purposes, open records requests, things like that. It will also help the records technician in that she can make live redaction, so that will save a lot of CDs, time-consuming efforts as far as getting like scenarios for 2 to 3 hours. A dispatcher may have to sit in the recording room or myself just to gather the information from the call, like for house fire, to replay all of that. And this will make it where the fire department could access that themselves. So it's very much needed.
Now, one other comment at a joint city-county meeting months ago, had increases in maintenance costs due to our contract running out with Motorola. So it was time that we had to start paying for that. And at that time, we talked about the 911 fee. I just want to point that out, and is that a topic that y'all would entertain at a future date?
I think are you talking about from the commissioner or the city county?
From the city commission.
Okay. I know in the city county level, when we originally discussed it, we talked about, when we went to 375, or is it 325?
25 now.
320, okay, so when we went to 325, we had talked about doing increments of 50 cents per year over a period of 3 years. And what the county had specifically said is that they would rather wait and do it all at one time. And that was gonna be sort of about the middle of this fiscal year when we made that decision. So I think from a city-county co-op standpoint, we were going to probably rehash that and suggest that we raise that by that amount later this year. But it would be useful to know if the city commission is in favor of doing that, because if not, then it's a moot point. But if you look at this budget on, C-179, down where it says transfer, miscellaneous transfer from general fund, that's what the city gives toward the 911 fee every year. And this was the year, 2023, when that number, before we did what we did with the fees 3 or 4 years ago, that number was gonna be close to $1 million, and that's really what set off the alarm bells. So at the top, you can see in 2020, the fees that were collected were a total of $669, and this next year coming up, gonna be closer to $941. So we have collected almost $300,000 more to help offset that, but we're still paying over $600,000 a year, and that number is gonna continue to go up, which is why we wanted to stair-step it up. Commissioner Vals and I were kind of in favor of a stair-step-up plan, but I think the county was more so in favor of doing a one-shot deal.
But now the county is kind of backstepping a little bit
Now
on
the
this.
county's kind of not in favor of doing anything, that's right, but
The one thing Jordan did tell us today, her system is so technology-driven that things that we bought 5 or 6 years ago, technology's changed since then. And she put us on notice today that our CAD system will probably have to be replaced in the next budget cycle.
and what was the price tag on that CAD system again?
It could be anywhere from 500,000, give or take.
And let me say this, one, and this has nothing to do with Jordan, but we completely failed when we went with Alert original. It was a failure. And we've been struggling since that time. It went live to keep things going. But someone suggested from the county that, do we set back money in reserves to replace the CAD system?
Just sort of a sinking fund?
What I think the judge called it. Now, I don't know what Robert would call it, but I don't mean to speak for you, but I understand clearly the issue. You and I have been talking about it since you took over. And let me tell y'all, it was a piece of junk when we bought it. They've been sold since then, and we don't get any tech support. We're actually training them on their own work product, and it's coming. And so it's just something, I mean, to speak for you, but I just want to shoot that arrow over the bow because it's coming.
And I think that's why when we had that discussion earlier on, that there were so many people who were adamant about making sure that when we make these purchases, that they're gonna work for a while, and they're gonna be exactly what we want, because we just went through that. Before I started, I don't know when that purchase was made, 14, 15, somewhere around there? 17? Yeah, it was, and so yeah.
A large part of that issue was not all of the right parties were involved in the purchase and knowing what was needed for the software. So I feel more confident about that now.
Yeah.
What's unique about the county's proposal about refunding is that they know they're only putting in
25%?
25%.
Yeah.
It's easier for them, but we can do whatever they want. It's just the fund, we don't consider this, we don't keep an operating balance because of the way we split it with the county.
So the expenses are outrunning revenues just about as they were 5 years ago when we were really in trouble on it, and it's just going that way again. It's going to be very, very difficult to fund this if we don't have a rate increase.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to talk about rate increases, but I agree. I mean, I wish we would've went with the stair-step plan
We should have,
that we had
should have.
discussed in the beginning.
We should have. It would have, it wouldn't have solved our complete problem, but it would have put us in a lot better shape.
Well, let's agree, at some point, we'll have a work session to address this, in the near future, but thank y'all for, listening to Jordan. She does a magnificent job. She does more with less than anybody, never complains, never asks for anything, but when she does ask,
You know, she needs it.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Jordan, how many total people do you have right now?
We are doing great right now. So we just were able to take down our posting for the position. So we are fully staffed, and then we have one moving over to a full-time position, which will open an on-call, and I already have one interested for that with experience.
Oh,
Good.
And,
not
Yeah.
the one thing, I may be mistaken, but her recruiting techniques are unique, because I don't know where she finds these people. We get very few through the application process, so
I try everything
She
that's
does.
recommended, so.
maybe the police department will hire you.
Yeah, as a recruiter.
Yeah. All right,
Thank you.
Will you send Brian Williams in?
Yes, sir.
Hey, and just to give you a little perspective, if you look at that top number, we're bringing in $645,700 on 911 fees. That's on $3.25. If we went to the $5 that we were talking about several years ago, stair stepping up to, that's gonna get that number to just over $1 million.
Yeah.
And so that'll give us $350,000 more to offset our costs.
Yeah.
And it's, you know,
That's what
we'll still have a sizable,
It needs to happen, it really does. I mean, no, people don't wanna hear it, but that's what needs to happen.
Actually, Brian, I've cut holes in it, you can pass it around so they can sit it in their book.
Okay. So, Mr. Williams?
Yes, sir.
While you're standing up, do you want to highlight anything?
I can, I've got some stuff, or y'all can ask me whatever you wanna know, or whatever. I'll make it the quick version, though. I know y'all look exhausted. This is our paving list that Dylan worked on, he got done for us yesterday, so.
This will be what we'll have the public hearing on at next Tuesday.
All right, just enough, all right. So, y'all have anything in particular you wanna ask, and I'll post some stuff out there to you, otherwise.
I think it's a replacement.
XR.
Okay, well, give me an opportunity. I know you're tired.
Can you pay my back alleyway?
Anyway, on the paving list, from the change from this year to the next year is we've upped our paving money from $450,000 to $600,000. So
good.
hopefully we'll be able to take care of the streets that's on the list.
That's one of the most important functions that we take care of as a city. I'm glad to see that we got that increase.
In the capital items though, you know, we're gonna put a sweeper in the budget this year, and, we're looking for a JLG lift for the, maintenance department, and that way we will have the ability to have something to do our Christmas in the park, to work on the maintenance on the outside of some of our buildings. On our sanitation truck that we're looking at this year that's budgeted, if you remember in the past, the last one we got, we had it installed with a car tipper on the back. That's when you back your 96-gallon container up and lift and dumps it where the people don't dump it themselves. So that's worked out really well. So we've got a little money left in our budget this year. So we've taken a truck to the south to have one of these tippers installed on one of our existing trucks that didn't have one. So when we get that back, if it works as well as we think it will, hopefully we'll have just enough to do one more truck. So we'll have 3 trucks with these tippers now. We're finding that a lot of the residents are buying these containers themselves. We're getting more and more of them all the time.
Being the 96
The 96-gallon container, yes. Usually you didn't see very many of them all because they were so expensive. A lot of people have found the convenience of it, so they're using more of them. So, and that's great that they're buying their own, whether it's because they're expensive to buy. So, so the truck that we're looking at this year, like everybody else, we're kind of in a bind with trying to find CDL drivers. We're going to look at
11-ton truck, which is a 22,000-pound truck. So that comes underneath the 26,001 criteria to have a CDL license. So basically, anyone with a driver's license can drive this truck. It'll basically be the same type truck that we're using, just a little bit smaller packer. Right now, the ones we run will hold around 8.5 to 9 tons. This truck will probably hold somewhere around 5.5 to 6.5 tons. So it could be an extra trip to the landfill in a day. But in turn, it gives us the option, if we can't find CDL drivers, we can just use a licensed driver to do that. So hopefully that will work out in this, and it will come with a tipper on it as well. So that's kind of how we're looking at being a little more proactive for the future as far as the way we're operating things and to continue to do it. As you know, personnel has become an issue all the way around. We're a few short in sanitation now, have potential to be 2 more short in the coming weeks. So hopefully we'll get some I think we have some lines on some people that have signed up for temporary, so maybe we'll be okay here shortly. But if not, maybe this will give us an avenue to use a different type of truck and still use what we have people-wise.
Good. So what I heard you say, the tippers may eliminate the need for a 3-man crew,
Possibly, depending on how many cans are out there like that. But there's more and more of the cans that are showing up now than there used to be. If you remember when we kind of looked at this before a few years ago, the cost for supplying the city with tipper trash cans and ice inks gallons was going to cost us somewhere around $800,000. Probably now it'd probably be more than that. So
$3 million if we can get them.
That was looking at somewhere around 12,000 cans to have a few extras too. So that's a big expense to put on there, but not just the investment of the can, but then you're looking at someone's going to have to be available to maintain these cans. The wheels are come off, the lids are come off, so you're always doing repairs to them if they're for our cans as well, and we do that now with the recycling containers, but we don't have as many, so it's not quite as bad. So,
What, how many average containers how many routes do you have, different routes?
On Monday through Thursday, there's 4 primary routes, and if we have enough people here, we try to run 5 trucks.
Yeah.
So we'll have a truck on each route, and we'll have an extra truck. That would save them roughly an hour and 15 minutes a day by having that extra truck out there. On Friday, we have 3 routes, and if we have enough people, we'll run an extra route on Friday as well. And there's one crew that works on Saturday that does mainly commercial and the parks.
I wonder if we ought to do, if we could, and this is just a consideration, I know it would be getting these tippers would be a big help, in if we could get a volume cost on some cans and offer them to our customers at a really good price or something, I don't know.
Like we do the dumpsters.
Yeah.
Because we do buy, 2-yard dumpsters, and we sell those, that we don't make a profit on it.
Yeah.
They have to pay the sales tax, but other than that, that's all we make off of dumpsters.
I think you have a good suggestion.
That'd be something to look at,
But
because that's the way it's gotta go, it's gotta go that direction somewhere.
Depending on, how many, where would you store
Yeah.
X amount to keep them on hand, but that would be what we'd have to find a place to put them. You don't really want them outside, but that would be a possibility. But we can check on this,
Just something you can look at, yeah,
just
think
to see
about.
what we could get in bulk, just to have cans.
Well, and I think the other thing, I'll give Brian credit, we talk about this all the time, and it's labor-intensive operation, and we understand with the labor shortage, we're gonna have to go more automated, however we have to get there.
It's workman comp, too,
Yeah.
and with people, when they pick up those bags and cans.
But, you could, with the ways approaching the trucks, you could phase it in by route over several years. But it's just something I think we need to talk about, Brian, because we've had this discussion 2 or 3 years ago. It's just, things aren't getting any better for you.
The smaller truck's gonna be bigger.
Yeah.
I didn't have a CDL.
That, and there are some versions of these automated sidearm trucks, kind of at this style where you don't have to have CDL, you know, the weight limit. So they're smaller, they're gonna take more time, do more trips to the landfill, but it would be doable like that, so that may
Yeah,
be
with
what.
everybody looking for CDL drivers, we can't.
And that may be what we
Big truck.
kind of phase into something like this too, as we go. And then this is not in any of the budget stuff this year, but I'll throw this out that we need to look at probably in the next couple of years, is we need to look at the landfill and possibly relocating a transfer station somewhere and closing the existing landfill out there now on Wolffield Road. So that's something we may need to look at too. It's something we're gonna have to do eventually, but just put that in your thought process.
On the road paving list, take a look at that, and then we can have that discussion next Tuesday.
Good.
Good deal.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Do you mind to send Greg down there? Report.
Good. Well, they had a suggestion out there too. They would like God forms to be last next year, Rob.
Yeah.
Really, you got time to get a cookie?
Yeah, Brian doesn't eat cookies.
Oh.
He doesn't eat cookies. He's kind of cookie monster.
Wait, we're gonna, wait a minute, y'all gonna have to go back out again, we got the fire department coming back in for.
All right.
So you didn't have enough time?
Come on in.
All right, so real quick, everybody knows Corey, but he's got a beard and he looks like Steve Gold.
Yeah.
It's a compliment.
He's behind the corner on the second floor today.
Okay.
If the two of y'all could give a quick overview of the department and any significant changes that you need to make this year.
I would say one of the main ones, operationally, would be the, getting the new servers to run our virtual environment. That's on page C-160. And of course, on C-161, the replacement UPS for the server room. The one we're currently running on was purchased in 1991. We've been replacing the batteries as needed. Walter, the electrician, works on that as often as need be, and based on his recommendation, we're wanting to replace that. And also fire suppression for the server room to help out in the event of fire, of course, in the server room. We're going to keep everything there intact. See any big changes? We're putting a phone system in this building this fiscal year right now, a new phone system that's going to facilitate calling other locations within the city. We'll be on the same phone system.
Is that a capital project?
It was a capital project. It was, I think it was requested by you, so it's this fiscal year that we're doing that.
Okay, it's in this year.
Current fiscal year, I just wanted to give a recap of that. So that should be done, that one should be done before the end of this fiscal year that we're currently in, Mr. Mayor. Other than that, do you think of anything?
Nothing major.
The only big increase I saw was on the capital outlay. What was it?
I'm sorry, what?
The data processing equipment had a big increase. What was?
Yeah, the data processing.
4607.
On page
Yeah.
C-157?
Mm-hmm. The data processing equipment are these 4 items
Okay.
on capital. That adds up to $72,790.
we're in the process of doing a major, website update. It's ongoing, so it'll probably be the remainder of this fiscal year, the first part of next year, with getting all of the department heads involved, asking for pictures from them.
What about our auto pay, kiosk?
Kiosk, that's currently being worked on. I'll let Corey speak to that.
Yeah, the holdup on it has actually been damage to the door during shipping. That's recently been replaced. Now the programmers on their end are currently working through the flow. So pretty much what's going to pop up on the screen when the user comes up. There was a little bit of a headache trying to get the barcode working because we didn't want everybody to have to type that in. So once that's done, that's pretty much all we're waiting on is their software side.
Do we have the plot for it ready?
Well, I talked with Buzzy about it, and probably as you're standing there where the tube system is on the second drive-through lane, to the right, between the pillar and, I can't think of the name, the concrete post.
Yeah.
We were thinking about setting it there,
Yeah.
at least, you know, like we said before, it's it's movable, it's portable, so, we can get it in there, and we've talked to QSI, who runs the maintenance on the tube system. We can grab some electricity off of that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to work with them and get Walter Moyt out to make that happen as soon as we can.
Okay.
And like I'm saying, the thing that we're waiting on is programming on the back end from the
We
engine.
need to put some signage or something on that to attract people into that lane. It's the third lane?
Well, we're
Second lane?
It'll be.
right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I see it, it's already marked out. It's something marked off.
Well,
like that.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
We're having to delay the third lane, with Dylan being gone.
Yeah.
It's just go back to.
Okay, gotcha.
Dylan laid those lines out. That's going to be the outline of the proposed booth, I guess.
Anything else, you two? Any questions for them?
I have any questions, but I'll get a new charger. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you about that.
I got you. We'll do it.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank
All right.
Would
Thank
you
you.
send Tim in?
Okay, sure.
Call him on. Greg?
Oh.
I saw him a while ago, and he said he got whipsawed the other night.
Yeah, I think we took advantage.
They play cards.
What did you get it?
Bunch of them play poker, yeah.
With Tim there?
Tim, he.
I want to call me in, so I'm filling in for him.
Tim needs to get his priorities straight. He wanted to spend time with his family, so.
Poker. Get into the highlights here.
Yeah.
So basically, we've got $5 million budgeted, just for serving crack. Luckily, we've got about $4.5 million in grants, $3 million from the EDA that hasn't been finalized yet, but we're still hopeful and still think that that's gonna happen. Then $1.5 million from the Delta Regional Authority. Most of that $5 million is covered in grants. We have to do the 5 miles of 8-inch steel pipeline extension, and also a new purchase point and 2 large meter steps. So most of that stuff is engineered and ready to bid. We've ordered some major materials already, so I think we're in a good position on crack. We have significant gas relocation work for I-69. It doesn't really have much of a budget impact because that work is part of the design build process, so the actual design build team is paying directly for that work. We have the Walton Lane relocations that are coming up this year. We have to move over a mile of 4-inch pipeline, and about 30 services. So that's a significant job that we'll have to do in-house. We're still working on the PERT project. We have about 3,500 units installed to date. We
Can you tell them what that is?
The electronic meter readers, basically, we put the little
piece of equipment on the meter, and they're able to read the meter remotely without having to visit the site. Like I said, we got 3,500 done already. We ordered another 2,500 for this coming fiscal year, so should be complete around in calendar year 2024 by then, so pretty happy with that.
And that will have a financial impact.
It's not just that, it's, I shared with Tim an email we got from Kelly Van Bussen, who's the supervisor in the meter reading area. They installed these ERPs with a cord in the area, which is a very time-consuming just to drive there and do all the metering. And they focused on that, and boy, she was so excited because that frees up that meter reader from having to drive all the way over there to do other work here. And as Tim installs these, the cost of the meter reading gets passed on to water and electric, who aren't installing as fast as Tim is. I mean, I waited at the very last moment to do that final calculation, and I hit Todd with another $1,000 with cost, because they're constantly installing, and they've hit a wall. I don't know what's happened to water, they quit installing, and electric has done nothing. But it's going to be a huge impact, and they've been told that if Tim gets done, he will not pay for meter reading.
Meter readers are pretty.
Oh, Lordy. Oh, boy.
One advantage we have, we just put the unit on existing meters. We don't have to change out the meters, where the water department's having to change out the meter. Well, so that's slowing them down. And I'm not certain on Hempel what they're doing.
They're not doing.
I think one thing's important, you need to mention that you're also working with Temple on their master plan for base power production.
Yeah, that's another big project that we've been discussing with Hempel and trying to work with them and convince them to be served by Henderson Municipal Gas instead of directly from Texas Gas. We're pretty certain we can save them millions of dollars from coming off the line that we're serving Pratt with, as opposed to Texas Gas trying to feed them directly. So, our costs are going to be around $2 million. The preliminary costs they had from Texas Gas were closer to $10 million. So we can really save them money. We're hopeful that'll work out, and that'll be another large gas load right below Pratt. So we'll gain two customers that are bigger than the current biggest customer. Working alongside them on that. We're still dealing with high natural gas prices. Future prices are currently over $8 for the next 8 months out, which is higher than we saw all winter long. So I'm not really sure what's driving that. I think they say the war in Ukraine and some of those issues are driving the prices up, but it's really unseen in the industry where prices would raise in the summer and stay high like they have been. So luckily we have some hedging and some storage in place going into next winter that will help offset those prices a little, but they are going to be high again next winter, mainly because of that first of the month index price for natural gas that we really can't control. But we do have a new crew truck budgeted, which is good. And our staffing has been pretty good over the last 2 years, and during COVID, we didn't really struggle too much like some other departments did with staffing, but pretty soon I think we're going to be 3 gas system workers short, which is our entry-level position. So hopefully we can get some new people right in that position. All I had written down.
So I know this is, but, so does that mean you're gonna have retirements coming up?
We do have one retirement coming up, and somebody has promoted up, that would open up one of those positions. So we have one other person that just put their nose in today, so.
I just make sure I have watches on, on order.
I thought she was gonna come to work for you.
No, oh, yeah. That's what I'll do.
He's your boss.
I'll tell you, Tim has been very good to work with on, I know with Buzzy and Robert and with Peak, and, so we're very happy with him and his spot. And, we appreciate what you're doing, and you've got a lot on the plate right now, and a lot of possibilities, but a lot of issues to cover too, you know, to get to where we need to be, so, we appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't think our department has ever seen a project like Pratt,
Yeah.
not anything close to it, that I know of.
Yes. Robert, on C-172,
Yes, sir.
explain that bottom line for me on the project, 2022 projection and 2023 proposed.
It's we're spending the money before we get the grants.
Okay.
Or that $2,881,000, he's gonna go in the hole because that's what it's gonna cost to get the project done. And it's $1 million of his own money.
That $2 million is outside of the $5 million that I talked about earlier. That's gonna happen already in this budget.
Yeah, I set off $2 million tonight, start the Texas Gas line extension or put in the station or station, you know.
Yeah, okay.
So it's an investment,
Yeah.
so.
The relocation of the piping they have on Madison Street, which is down at the railroad tracks by Haydex, moving that back further into the lot and enlarging the meter. Well, basically what they have to do to feed the load we need for Pratt.
And one thing I'll just mention that he mentioned, that he's been working with Temple. We sort of gave them a deadline back in February to give us an answer, and they couldn't do it. So Tim had to figure in what if it does happen in the future, and what we want to explain now, that if they do come on board, we'll ask them to reimburse some of our expenses that we've incurred by taking the chance of making gas available to them. So, you know, we may get it back.
I'd like to, you know, like I mentioned, Owen, and we play cards all the time. He gives out compliments very seldom, and he has complimented Tim on how well he's transitioned to his new position and how much he's got accomplished in the short time he's been there. So that's saying a lot from Owen, so.
Yeah.
That's-
So can we get him a babysitter so he can come play cards? Do y'all have any questions?
Anything else for Tim?
Continue to good work. I know you do got a lot on your plate. And Owen's shoes, not easy shoes to fill because he had all that time experience. And, just keep doing what you're doing, we're proud of you.
You know what's good about going last? You're not in here very long.
That's right, Joe.
Have a good night, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Save the best for last.
It's just be real quick.
I don't understand this finance at all.
I just want to give a very quick I'm going to do a summary rather than do it by divisions.
He's got a PowerPoint and everything.
Gosh.
Okay, that shows the makeup of the finance department, where, you know, 7 1/4 positions in administration, and 3 1/4 of those involve the occupational tax. So, let me introduce this, of course, you guys know Dawn Wynn, Shelley Malloy. Dawn's the assistant finance director. Shelley is the new accounting manager that sends you the monthly financials. So she actually, you've been, when you were temporary for a while, how long have you been doing this now? Ever. I had to have her aboard.
And I say thank you every time you send those little reports to me.
Finance administration was just Dawn and I, then, Leanne, and the finance accounting, that's more or less the meter reading. Everything that all two positions to that is directly related to meter reading, with meter servicing, billing, and everything. The final position is Shelley. She kind of oversees that area. And the treasury, that's the collections area that everyone's familiar with. It's 12 and a three-quarters position, where we share a position with them. She bounces back and forth, so wherever we need her the most. So we have totals 31 employees, 28 are full-time. This is a summary of the whole budget, and you'll notice that personnel costs are up almost 10%. A lot of that's related to the COLA and the merit. I mean, part of that's also, we're going to do a succession plan and hire a finance director starting late in the fiscal year. And of course, the other big item there is the capital.
You broke Robert's heart.
Yeah. I think it's time for a fresh face and new ideas, and as well with that. One thing that I'm really pleased about this budget is we had that study done about our net consultants and did process engineering and studied how we did everything. They've made several recommendations that we've already implemented, and one of those, because of the turnover that we have in the collections area, he recommended adjusting the pay to keep them in there. I've always called it the incubator. We tend to have people come in, they get that first 6 to 12 months, they promote out. So, he's recommended to increase that from a pay grade 10 to a pay grade 20. Kind of illustrate what we have in that area. As of today, the average length of service is 1.5 years. That, if I eliminate the most senior position there, very end, that drops to just 10.5 months. That means 7 of the 8 ladies that, there's a gentleman there too, 7 of the 8 representatives have less than 11 months of experience. So we'll still encourage them to apply for jobs. The 2 that we hired on May the 2nd are fantastic, and I don't see us holding on to them very long. The way they jumped in, they were on the window the first day. They really jumped in. These are some of the goals. Of course, we concentrate on the GFOA awards, which is the budget award, the annual financial report. Of course, we work with Donna on the Auburn annual financial report. One of the goals is to increase the automatic payment for utility bills. We had, at this time last year, we really pushed for that. Big increase, 91. Percentage-wise, still working on that. The ladies, when the customers come in and sign up for service, we kind of make it automatic. We hand the paper for that. A lot of times we don't get it back, but we encourage that. This is to get utility customers to use the email notification rather than receiving a paper bill. The email notification will cost us 4 cents. It costs us over 60 to send a copy. Really pushing this also. We have almost 57%.
Is there a way that we can default to that and make them, no, I'm serious, and make them sign up for written statements?
Email statements.
No. I mean, is there a way we can default to email statements and make them sign up for written ones if they want a written?
So many people are, we all use our email addresses for everything these days. We encounter people not wanting to share that. Tim really needs the contact information for they do a survey every year. He's been asking for us to get more email addresses. So we're making it our goal to get that now. We can default to that,
Well, you know,
I don't know.
I'm saying when somebody signs up, I'm sure they give you their name, address, phone number, all that stuff, plus their email address. And then I guess they would have to check a box if they want an email statement. You know, I'm wondering if we could do it the opposite. Check a box if they want a written statement, but we're gonna send you an email statement, that's our default.
Let me look into that.
I think the issue's gonna be that we have so many in there right now that we don't have their email.
No, I don't mean,
Yeah,
I mean for, as we sign up new
I
people.
know, I understand what you're saying, but I think it would be good if we could do it
For everybody?
for everybody.
Yeah.
But we don't have the email addresses.
You know, I just.
You need an email phone directory.
You know, instead of a request, we make a declarative statement that says, hey, the city of Henderson is moving to email statement. We need your email address.
Yeah.
And then you get them on there and just, that's what we do,
Yeah.
you know? And I don't know.
I don't hurt to try that.
Yeah.
I think you could get a lot more like that, but what happens when you got some that I don't have an email?
Then you have the option to sign up for a written statement.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm about to get to that.
Yeah.
I'm in those numbers for the automatic.
I'm ashamed that I'm not on the email yet. We still get the paper statements and I need to be on the email, so.
Another thing, we try to push our vendors to sign up for the ACH payment process so that, you know, cutting checks and mailing checks and reconciling the checks is such a labor-intensive process. So I think a lot of this, you notice we had an increase over 1,000. But I think some of that's related to the economy. We weren't doing as much in 2021 as we are now. So some of that checks increase. But overall, our CCH payments are a bigger percentage of our total disbursements. 36% of all payments now are about ACH. So we're getting there. I want to work with IT and HR to improve some of the payroll processing, make it more efficient. Tie all the employees to log into the payroll system with a fob. So that,
I'm all for that.
I'm sorry? Yeah.
But I am all for that.
So, I don't, we just have to make it mandatory. We got a big pushback from the employees when we giving everyone a paper pay stub. Pretty much drove them to the system. We pretty much mandated that if you're going to have to get on that system. So that's one of the goals I wanted 15 years ago. I couldn't believe we were still getting paper stubs. We're not going to make many friends with mandating this, but that's the way to go. But this is the last one, the bottom one there. Once we get all the meters on it reading system, we hope to allow the customers to pick their due dates. They can line that up with when they get paychecks or when they get their pension checks or Social Security.
No wonder you're leaving.
This is what I get a lot of pushback on, but think about it.
I know.
All we have to do is automate the system where every day we tell the system to go out and read these meters, calculate the bill, and send it out. That's what we want to do. Even the traffic at the counter, so we don't have these, we have pretty much four due dates. So, yeah, I mentioned this, and I got a bit of pushback, but we'll work on it. I think it's doable.
Are you gonna do that before you?
Well, it depends on how quickly Tim and Tom and Brad gets it done.
It'll never get done if you're waiting on Hempel.
I'm excited about the kiosk, and once we get that installed, I'd like to find a place we can put it off-site, whether strip somewhere, whether it's on East 60 west, somewhere else, get another site. Or use your friends. We're also working with the utilities on the ERTs. As I mentioned, Kelly was so excited when Ford was put on that system. We're having trouble finding, we can't get meter readers. Yeah, I know everyone's saying this. We had a gentleman that lasted 7 days.
We really have high hopes for him. He was a boy. We really were excited.
Just find another job or whatever?
Oh, I think it's more than they realize. It happened during, we had that humid spike, the weather, it happened during that time, he just couldn't handle it. I keep saying that our next hire is our last hire, because I'm hopeful that we get enough of those herbs that we can eliminate the position.
If I'm not mistaken, HW hired a contractor to do.
And the meter readers will tell you, reading water meters is harder on the body than reading electric gas.
Down the hole.
I've done that. It's
Where you
hard.
gotta,
Yeah.
open them up, clean them out.
So-
Snakes, I love doing that.
Water. It's boring.
Did I copy that over? That last one there is the repeat, so. Overall, it's just pretty much even with what we had last year, except for the 5% of the higher for the finance director, so.
So how are you on, in the entire department, how are you on staff?